It is one of the most cosmopolitan cities in North America. This is Montreal, home of the CFL's born-again Montreal Alouettes.
And this is a happy occasion because the Alouettes celebrate 40 years of service and history to this great community. You know, if you go back to 1946, when Leo Dongeron, Lou Heyman, and Eric Craddock put this franchise together, some names quickly come to mind. Virgil Wagner, and of course the great Herb Trawick. And then you move to the 50s with Hal Patterson, Sam Etcheverry, and Red O'Quinn, and the 60s with Sonny Wade and Dickie Harris, Johnny Rogers, and Tom Cousineau in the 70s. And here we are in the 80s, and maybe this team has more to look forward to than any of the rest because it's their responsibility to keep football alive here.
After watching these two teams over the years, I guess the one factor that impresses me most about the Toronto Argonauts and the Montreal Alouettes is the intensity level they seem to reach each time they get together. You know, I think it goes back to the late 60s when a Toronto defensive back named Jimmy Tomlin picked off a Sonny Wade pass, and when he was tackled, Sonny Wade stepped right on his head. Well, that kind of created the bad blood between these two teams, and tonight's game, I don't think it'll be any different. This great rivalry still continues.
The Toronto Argonauts and the Montreal Alouettes meet tonight on the artificial turf of Olympic Stadium. Live on CTV, it's week 2 of the CFL season. Tonight, the Argonauts and the Alouettes. The Argos won their season opener against Hamilton on the strength of their kicking game. Lance Chomick was 4 for 4 in field goals, while Hank Olisic boomed 2 crucial punt singles to get their season off to a winning start.
Well, we were pleased with the outcome of last week's game because beating Hamilton is always a big rival game for us, and starting off the season on a winning note was really a big plus for us. And you know, as the season develops, lots of times certain games become more instrumental than other games. In a way, this season's only our second game of the year, and already we have a chance we can win tonight to be 2 games up on Montreal and Hamilton, along with Ottawa. So this is an important game for us, and because of what I just mentioned, it means the same importance to Montreal. So we expect a real battle out here tonight.
The Alouettes, meanwhile, began their season in Ottawa, where their offense was able to move the ball, but interceptions proved to be their undoing. Chris Sigler alone had 4 for the Rough Riders, this one for a touchdown. But the Alouettes promise they will be better tonight.
Last week in Ottawa, we had a great offensive performance, but we lacked one thing, a win. This week in Montreal, we're going to have a great offensive performance and a great defensive performance, and we're going to come out with the win. I'm Kerry Taylor, and I'm from Toronto, but I'm now in Montreal, and I'm going to play my dentist to beat Toronto tonight.
And so they meet tonight at Olympic Stadium, and you couldn't ask for better football weather. There has been an almost fall-like feel today. Overcast and cool and a gusting breeze. You can even feel here at field level despite the partial roof. Good evening, everyone. I'm Dan Matheson, and looking forward to an exciting football game tonight because both these teams have something to prove. The Alouettes, that they are better than last year and last week, but they have an entire city to convince. The Argonauts, meanwhile, may have been Grey Cup champions in '83, but fell to 4th in the East last year. They've got some skeptics at home as well. For more on tonight's matchup, let's go upstairs to Pat Marsden and Leif Pedersen.
Thank you, Dan, and hello once again, everybody. Leif, I've got to say this. I don't think I've ever seen a football organization so excited as the Toronto Argonauts are over the acquisition of Craig Ellis.
Well, Pat, they should be, because Craig Ellis is a quality running back. In fact, he's led the Canadian Football League the past 2 seasons in pass receiving. In fact, last year, 102 receptions, and they gave up a lot getting rid of Nick Hebler to get him to Toronto, but I think Craig Ellis is the guy that'll finally replace Cedric Minter, who they've missed.
Well, you know, it's funny. Montreal lost in Ottawa last week, and yet they feel very, very confident about tonight's game. Do you think it's justified?
Well, I think so. Mistakes really hurt them last week. Defensively, they played well enough to win, but, you know, Dan Matheson said it best. Those 5 interceptions were just killers. Tonight, if they can hang on to a few more passes and not hurt themselves, they've got a good chance.
Well, it's a big game for both these clubs because you don't want to fall behind early in the early going of this 1986 campaign. Dan?
And so it's week 2 of the 1986 CFL regular season. The Alouettes looking for their first win of the year. The Argonauts want to go 2-0. Stay with us. The opening kickoff is coming up shortly. This is CTV's Friday Night Football.
Mesdames, Messieurs, veuillez maintenant vous joindre à Madame Géraldine Doucette et notre hymne national. Ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Geraldine Doucette and our national anthem.
Ô Canada, terre de nos aïeux, ton front est ceint de fleurs glorieux, car ton bras sait porter l'épée, il sait porter la croix. Ton histoire est une épopée des plus brillants exploits. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Well, there's a look at our officiating crew for tonight. It'll be headed by referee Jake Ireland. And he'll have Brian McKee, Ross Saunders, Ralph Ferguson, Roger Keeley, and Al McColeman as his understaff. The Toronto Argonauts trying to make it 2 in a row to open this 1986 campaign. And the Montreal Alouettes would like to even their record at 1-1.
Well, Pat, I thought Bob Obilovich made an excellent point in our opening. He'd like nothing better than to get a 2-game lead on the Hamilton Tiger Cats because, you know, over the course of the season, they're going to win their share of football games. So Toronto approaching this is really a big win for them.
Roy Kurtz is number 5, and he'll be kicking it away to Craig Ellis, 23, or Chris Woods, number 70. This will be Woods from his 18-yard line. And Woods, with a pretty decent return, gets it over the 40 to about the 43. And that's where the Toronto Argonauts are going to put it into play for this first offensive series of this ball game. Condredge Holloway, of course, is at quarterback. Craig Ellis will wear 23 tonight. Bob Brock is at fullback, number 34. And there's the receiving corps.
Ken Joyner, the newcomer at the wide receiver spot. Of course, Steve Cox, with their only touchdown last week in that win over Hamilton, missed most of last season, and I'm glad to see him back. He's an exciting performer.
Well, the Argos have improved their team speed greatly this year. Let's see if it's of benefit tonight. Holloway carries himself, gets maybe a yard at best. And that looked like run all the way, although what did you think?
Well, I don't think it was run. It was a one receiver pattern, and they did an excellent job defensing it. Number 2, Steve Benjamin. As we take a look at that offensive line, a makeshift offensive line for the Argonauts. Jeff Arp, who played 4 seasons with Hamilton, is now with the Argonauts. And there's the front 4 that they're going to have to protect Holloway. They did a lousy job last week, gave up 8 sacks.
Chris Woods, the former Edmonton Eskimo, wears number 70. But he doesn't have to worry about catching the football because Sandy Armstrong led the Montreal Alouette defensive charge as they record their first sack of the night against quarterback Condredge Holloway.
Well, I just mentioned this. There was a problem for the Argonauts last week, and if they want to have a successful season, there's no secret they have to keep Condredge Holloway healthy and give him good protection. They have not been able to do that so far in 1986.
Hank Kolisic will be punting for the Argos on 3rd and 15, awaiting our number 20, Kerry Taylor, and number 29, Jeff Treflin.
Oh, and Kerry Taylor, you heard him. He wants to have a big game against his former team.
Good punt by Kolisic. And this is Taylor from his 23-yard line. He gets it out over the 30 to about the 33. He had a big game returning punts last week against Ottawa when he returned them for a total of 106 yards. This is the way Montreal will line up offensively. Alan Reed is a guy that gives you 100% every minute that he's on the field, and he's an exciting little tailback.
I think one thing we're going to notice this week, too, about Montreal is Kerry Taylor and James Hood have had another week of practice to learn that offense. Hopefully, a few of those problems they had last week have been smoothed out.
Jacques Chapdelaine had a big game for Montreal against Ottawa. He wears number 88. And this is Alan Reed, and was he smacked just as he got to the line of scrimmage. Number 79, Marlon Jones, the right defensive end, was there to haul him down.
That's a pretty good group right there. You see protecting Joe Barnes. Lloyd Fairbanks been an all-star so many times I can hardly count it.
And let's keep an eye on Willie Pless, number 32, a linebacker with the Argos from the University of Kansas, and he is probably their biggest off-season acquisition, although getting Craig Ellis now, of course, would break that highlight. Well, Barnes scrambles for a few yards, but he'll be well short of the first down as he gets out of bounds at about the 41-yard line, which will bring up a 3rd and 3, and the Alouettes will be punting.
Well, Joe got the 1986 season off to a rough start last week with those 5 interceptions that we talked about. His offensive line did not have a great night. They too gave up 8 sacks in that game, and so far both quarterbacks, Holloway and Barnes, having to scramble early in the game.
This is Mike McTagg, averaging just under 37 yards, punting it away to Ken Joyner, number 27. And Joyner was met as he crossed the 35 to about the 37-yard line. There is an injured Montreal Alouette player down on the field, and we'll come back and point him out for you after we remind you that there is no score here in the first quarter, and we'll be back in a moment. That would be a serious blow for the Montreal Alouettes if Paul Gray is unable to return in this game, because he is their starting middle linebacker. And although there could be criticism of his pass coverage, boy, there's nobody tougher against the run. So number 37, Matt Finley, will come in to replace the injured Paul Gray.
Well, he's a 6'2", 225-pound rookie. There you see from Eastern Michigan. He was their first-round draft choice this year. They also have, we might mention, number 75, Ken Cianconi on the roster. He had that Achilles problem last year, was out for a lot of the season. He is available to play, but right now it's Matt Finley.
The linebacking brigade then will be William Mitchell, Matt Finley, and Lamont Jeffers. Ken Cianconi really has not fully been able to participate in all of the Montreal Alouette workouts because of the injury that he sustained a year ago. And there you can see it apparently is a knee injury to Paul Gray, and let's hope that he can come back. It's going to be a tough sell here in Montreal. There's no question about that. But if the club can win, this is a community that loves winners. They'll support winners if they think they have a shot to win the overall championship. They're not interested in contenders. They want winners. Toronto Argonauts begin first down at their 38-yard line. It's a scoreless ball game. The toss goes to Craig Ellis, and Ellis picks up very close to 9 yards before he's met by Brian Dudley, number 15.
Well, I'm sure the Toronto Argonauts would like nothing better than to get a running game going early and take some of the pressure off Conrad Holloway so he doesn't feel like he has to throw the ball all the time. Craig Ellis, well, we talked about him as a pass receiver. He's also an excellent running back carrying the football.
I was interested in your comment that he's probably the best in Cedric Minter. He does remind me a little bit of Minter as well. It's second down and a yard to go. And again, Craig Ellis gets the call, and he should have the first down.
Well, the thing that's so tough to defense a guy like Craig Ellis, when you put him in motion and you know he's going out in a pass pattern, the defensive backs and linebackers know that they've just got a heck of a tough job on their hands, and it forces a lot of teams to play zone against it so they don't get stuck with a linebacker on a quick back like him.
Argos have a new right guard in there tonight. Jeff Arp, number 56, is in place of the injured Tony Antunovic. It's first down, Toronto. The ball is at their 49-yard line. Upended back of the line of scrimmage. It was Steve Rocky and Sandy Armstrong again who got there for the second quarterback sack of the night for that Alouette defense.
Now, Steve Rocky had a sack last week in their game against Ottawa, and he forced the play back inside to Sandy Armstrong, and already a tough night for Conrad Holloway developing.
Conrad actually loses about 7 yards on the play, so make it second down and 17 to go, Toronto, with the ball at their 42-yard line. Holloway going deep. And he's got Joyner, who then loses the ball when he hits the turf. Ken Joyner from the University of Kentucky was acquired by the Argos at a free agent camp that they ran, and he is the first free agent to ever come to Toronto from one of those camps.
Conrad Holloway just threw an absolutely perfect strike to Kenny Joyner. Watch, just as he's bobbling it, hits the ground, the ball comes loose, but you cannot put the ball in a better spot.
But it's all for naught as Hank Olisic now comes out onto the field, and he'll be punting on 3rd and 17. We've played 5 minutes of this opening quarter, still no score. And Kerry Taylor will field this for Montreal from his 16. Good coverage by that special unit of the Toronto Argonauts. They contain him at the 25-yard line. That's where the Alouettes start. When we come back, it's scoreless. The Als and the Argos. Scoreless ball game. The Toronto Argonauts and the Montreal Alouettes here at the Olympic Stadium in Montreal. Alouettes starting once again deep in their own territory at the 25-yard line. Toronto has had much better field position so far in this ball game because they accepted the opening kickoff and returned it over their 40-yard line. Montreal has started deep in their own territory. So let's see what Joe Barnes elects to do here on first down. Fakes to Alan Reed. And then fires into the middle to Mike McTagg, but it is picked off. Willie Pless comes up with his first interception as a pro and gives Toronto possession in Montreal territory. Willie Pless, the very impressive young linebacker from the University of Kansas Jayhawks.
Joe Barnes threw a pretty good pass to number 14, Mike McTagg, but the ball bounces off his chest, and Willie Pless, alert on the spot, makes that interception. Toronto's got nice field position after the turnover.
They have possession at the Montreal 48-yard line with the first down. This is Craig Ellis. And Ellis picked his way neatly down to the 35-yard line for a first down for the Argos.
Nice job along that right side of the offensive line with newcomer Jeff Arp and Jeff Inglis as well. A huge hole for Craig Ellis. Good cut to the outside, too.
So make it a first down, Toronto. The ball at the 37-yard line. And again, this is Craig Ellis. And Ellis battles his way to the 30 for a pickup of 7. Bob Obilovich. Well, he's done it all in the CFL. He's played. He's been an assistant coach. Also coached basketball at university, incidentally. But Obi's a guy who just loves sports generally and was a fine athlete himself at Montana. It's second down and about 4 yards to go. Make the pickup 6, so it's 2nd and 4. Argos. The ball is at the 30-yard line of the Alouettes. Holloway dumps it into the middle to Bob Bronk. And Bronk on that middle screen gets inside the 20 to about the 18-yard line. Now, Coach Pedersen, do you want to say anything about this?
Conrad Holloway and I had a long chat on the phone the other day, and I said, you know, the way those Montreal linebackers drop so deep on passing downs, you've got to get that center screen in there to Bob Bronk, and he said, we're going to put that in just for that reason.
So it is first down, Argos. Craig Ellis, and he's at the 15-yard line. Wrapped up by a number of Als, including William Mitchell, number 31, the linebacker.
Well, there's some interesting sideline stories to this game tonight. William Mitchell, Kerry Taylor, Joe Barnes, all former Toronto Argonauts who were unhappy when they left Toronto, so I'm sure that they'll be wanting to show a little extra tonight against Bob Obilovich to tell him that he made a mistake.
Pickup was about 4 yards. It's second down, 6 yards to go. Holloway fires, and this is picked off by the Montreal Alouettes number 27, Rick Ryan. So turnabout is fair play. The Als had one intercepted. Now the Argos come back and they return the favor.
Now the Montreal Alouettes were backed up to their goal line, and they came with the blitz man-to-man coverage, and a nice job by number 27, Rick Ryan, stepping in front of Paul Pearson, and makes kind of a basketball play to bring that interception in.
And that's his second interception of 1986, so it indicates that Rick Ryan is somewhat of a ball hawk. He picked one off last week against Ottawa.
Well, they made a great deal when they were able to acquire the rights to him from BC Lions. He's really helped them out in the secondary.
And this is the big guy. Huckluck carries it out over the 15 to about the 18-yard line. Dan Huckluck, who started his career with the Toronto Argonauts, then went out west and, of course, played with Winnipeg, has been a good off-season acquisition by the Als.
And he gives them a little breathing room.
Well, he'll run hard for you every time.
Oh, he's a quality back and excellent blocker and doesn't get a chance to carry the ball too often.
But he picks up 10 on that occasion, so it's 1st and 10 as they fire it out to Alan Reed, and Reed is nailed back of the line of scrimmage by Don Moan, number 36, the linebacker on that side. It's hard to believe Don Moan has been around for 5 years now, originally with the British Columbia Lions.
Really, I think one of the unsung heroes on that Toronto Argonaut defense over the past few years. You know, you don't really hear a lot about him, but game in, game out, he does an outstanding job at the outside linebacking spot.
They rule that Alan Reed got back to the original line of scrimmage, so it is 2nd and 10 from the 18-yard line for the Alouettes. Barnes had some time, fired. The pass is caught by Mike McTagg. No, they rule it. They rule that it hit the ground.
Sure looks like a one-hopper to me, and the official on the far sideline just had an excellent viewpoint to make that call. Here you're going to get a great look at it. Touch the ground, no question about it. That's a great call.
So it remains scoreless with 5 minutes and 23 seconds left to play in this opening quarter. And Mike McTagg is backed up now inside his 5-yard line to punt on 3rd and 10. Ken Joyner, number 27, and Chris Woods are back to receive this punt. This will be Joyner from the Toronto 53. And he puts his head down, crosses midfield, and gets into the 52-yard line, which is where the Argos will put it in play when we come back. It's scoreless, and we'll return in a moment.
As the Alouette defense comes back in the field, they do so without their starting middle linebacker, Paul Gray, and he has been lost to the team for the rest of the game. He says he was clipped. He is in considerable pain in the dressing room now, getting ice on the knee, but he will not be back.
And that's bad news for that man, Gary Durchik, the head coach of the Alouettes, who said, we will play better this week than we did last, and that's what we want to do, improve every time out. This is Craig Ellis. Well, you got to be impressed with Ellis, the way he picks his way through that line of scrimmage. He didn't pick up a whole lot of yardage there, but he could have been nailed for a loss. Instead, he'll pick up a couple. Doug Scott, the Boise State grad, was there to help out on the tackle.
Well, there's no question about the abilities of a Craig Ellis, and as I mentioned in our opening, they paid a high price to get him. Nick Hebler, an all-star Canadian defensive end, went to Saskatchewan, but you have to give something good to get something good.
And they feel he's the catalyst that could really make this an explosive offense. At this point, Montreal doing a good job containing it generally. It's 2nd down and 8. Holloway's pass is complete to Joyner, and Joyner is inside the 20-yard line to about the 18. Ken Joyner, the newcomer who isn't a tall fellow at 5'9" and 175, makes the reception and then a pretty good run.
Well, when Conrad and I were talking the other day, he said, Leaf, he said, you watch out for this Kenny Joyner. He's just finally getting comfortable with the offense, but he said, I think he's a sleeper. He's going to be a good star in the CFL.
32 yards he picked up on that pass from Holloway. There's movement along the line of scrimmage as Craig Ellis took that pitch out from Conrad. Holloway got into the 18-yard line. We'll wait and see how they call it. Jeff Inglis appeared to move the right tackle, number 51. And that's what it is. It's a procedure call, as indicated by referee Jake Ireland. First penalty of the ball game.
Procedure. Toronto number 51. Decline. 2nd down.
So the Alouettes decline the penalty. The ball will be spotted at the 19-yard line. Actually, Ellis ended up losing a yard. So it's 2nd down, 11 to go from the 19-yard line. Now, the Argos were down here before and got nothing because of the interception by Rick Ryan. Holloway looks, fires. The pass is complete to Joyner inside the 10. He's very close to the first down marker. Now, it all depends upon where they spot the ball. They're going to bring the sticks out. From our vantage point, it looks like he has the first down. We'll wait and see.
Conrad Holloway getting a little more time to throw, and of course, you know, over the course of the years, when he gets the necessary time, he can pick them apart.
Well, it's third and, what, an inch?
Well, I don't think they're going to... This isn't too much of a decision. Not when you have to give a yard off the ball to defensive line.
So on third down in a scoreless ball game with 3 minutes and 10 seconds left to play in the opening quarter, the Argos will go for it. Conrad keeps it himself, and he'll have the first down. As Leaf pointed out, as you see Paul Pearson discussing some strategy with head coach Bob Obilovich, it's virtually impossible to stop third and less than a yard situation in the CFL because of the yard that defensive alignment has to give off the ball.
You know, you saw Paul Pearson going back into the game with the play I'm sure was called by Bob Obilovich. I didn't realize that they call all of the Toronto Argonaut plays from the sidelines. Conrad Holloway makes none of the decisions himself unless he wants to audible and change the play at the line of scrimmage.
The ball is spotted at the Montreal 7-yard line. First and goal to go, Argos. Holloway fires, touchdown, Argos, Craig Ellis. Oh, good job by Conrad Holloway to evade that Montreal pass rush, and then he didn't take any chances. The moment that he saw Ellis break open, he hit him.
Well, Conrad Holloway does an excellent job to get away from Lamont Jeffers on the blitz, and he maybe could have run it into the end zone, but why not throw it to the leading pass receiver the last 2 seasons in the CFL and let him do all the work?
Well, Craig Ellis has had an impressive start for the Argos this evening. He's carried the ball 7 times for 35 yards, and now he takes his first pass, and it's good for a major score. Lance Chomek's point after attempt is good. And so the Toronto Argonauts have gone out in front of the Montreal Alouettes 7-0. And there's the man who scored the touchdown. Let's look at it one more time.
Well, he's just going to pivot to the inside, and that's an extremely tough pass pattern for the linebacker William Mitchell to cover. He couldn't stay with him, and the Toronto Argonauts take a 7-0 lead.
And really, the entire reason for Toronto being so much better offensively in that quarter, I believe, is the fact that they've had such good field position really the entire 13 minutes.
Well, I think their play selection's been very good, too. The pretty good balance between running and passing the football. And Craig Ellis, it looks like he's going to earn his game check tonight with all the work he's been getting in that first quarter.
The Argos trying to move into a first-place tie with the Ottawa Rough Riders. Congratulations to Joe Moss and his staff, and also to Donnie Holtby. Those guys have really worked hard in Ottawa to build that very, very competitive football team. All they need now is some support, and it sure would be nice to see Lansdowne Park filled once again.
And also congratulations to Mark Barousse, who set the single-game receiving record for Ottawa last night. Nice job.
And let's not forget our old pal Jackie Parker out in Edmonton. What a victory that was for the Eskimos over the BC Lions. So the Argos will kick off from the 35-yard line. This is high, not too deep. And this is Jeff Treflin. Treflin gets to the 30. Well, they'll spot it down about the 32 or 33. That was a good kick by Hank Olisic because it was high, and it allowed the cover team to get down there.
And, of course, as all the fans in the CFL know this year, all kicks will come from the 35-yard line. So any time you stop the return team inside their own 35, you've done an excellent job.
Pat and Leaf, I just had a quick chat with Craig Ellis. He said the pattern he ran on the touchdown play was a new little wrinkle that the Argonauts put in, especially for the Alouettes after watching them play Ottawa last week.
Well, they may as well come back and use it again because it certainly was effective on that occasion. Joe Barnes fires, and it goes incomplete. He was looking for his new wide receiver, James Hood, number 80, the former Winnipeg Blue Bomber.
Just, Dan, further to your comment, the Argonauts felt like they could go underneath the linebackers of the Montreal Alouettes because they dropped so deep. Although on the touchdown it was man-to-man coverage, but that certainly was uppermost in their game plan.
Joe Barnes. Go ahead, Dan.
Well, also, Craig appreciates the fact he got the score. Big smiles for Connie because he felt Condredge could have run the ball in himself.
It's 2nd and 10 as Barnes' pass is complete this time. And this is number 20 of the Montreal Alouettes, Kerry Taylor. Taylor, of course, the former Toronto Argonaut, hoping to have a big game here against his former teammates.
Well, you heard him in our opening. No secret. He wants to get back and get some revenge. And he ran an excellent pattern against number 14, Dennis Clay. And a good throw by Joe Barnes. And, boy, they've got to get something moving. They've had a pretty rough first quarter.
They have the ball right now at their own 49-yard line, trailing 7-0 with a minute and a half left to play in the opening quarter as Alan Reed is the ball carrier, gets across the 50 to about the 51-yard line. And you know, I was talking about their field position. Here's where Montreal took over. At their 34, their 26, their 6, and their 33. Argos, on the other hand, had the ball at the 43, the 48, and the 52. So it's 2nd down, 8 yards to go Montreal. Now they've got the field position that they've been seeking all game. Try to set up the screen, and they do to Alan Reed. And Reed fights his way down to about the 50-yard line before Don Moan finally forced him out of bounds. And if they give him the 50, he's got the first down.
Alan Reed just does an excellent job to get away from the middle linebacker initially, number 73, David Marshall. Breaks the tackle there, picks up a couple of blocks, and back-to-back first downs for the Montreal Alouette offense.
We've got less than a minute to play in this opening quarter. The Owls are on the move. They are in Toronto territory for the first time this evening. Barnes' pass is complete. And this is the wide receiver, James Hood. And Hood just refuses to go down. Finally, they drop him inside the 40 at the 39-yard line. It's another Montreal first down, a pickup of 11 yards.
Well, this is one of the reasons why they were so happy to be able to trade for a quality receiver like James Hood. Exceptionally quick in the open field, and really not much blocking developed on that quick screen to him. He does this all on his own.
First down, Owls, the ball at the Toronto 39. Barnes' pass intended for Hood again. And there is no flag, although Hood felt that Carl Braisley may have given him an extra little shove. It goes for naught as the first quarter comes to an end with the Toronto Argonauts out in front of the Montreal Alouettes 7-0. We'll return with the second quarter in a moment. 7-0. The Argos lead the Montreal Alouettes, but the Owls are on the move. 2nd down at the Toronto 39. The pass is complete to Mike McTagg, but he's hit at the 35-yard line. The pickup will be just 5, and we will see the field goal unit of the Alouettes come out onto the field. 2nd down and 10 yards to go. Well, throw a 5-yard pass. There's a look at the statistical story. As you can see, Argos had 96 total yards to 57 for the Alouettes, and both clubs had 1 turnover. They were both interceptions. So now Roy Kurtz will try the field goal from 41 yards away, and this is well within his range. He didn't get much of the ball, and as a result it didn't go high enough, and the Toronto Argonauts' Jerry Nash will concede the single point. So the Alouettes get on the scoreboard, but not to the extent that they would have liked. Toronto leads at 7-1.
I'm not saying this is the reason why Roy Kurtz missed the field goal, but he does have a new holder this year. Number 4, Daryl Moyer is the holder, and of course, for so many years, Jerry DiTilio did that job and did it so well. Always tough when you have to work out the timing with some new guys.
I'll tell you what else might have affected that kick is that it is really windy down here at field level. Surprising for the partial dome, and we're starting to get a little wet. The ball may have been slippery.
So the Argos will put it into play from their 35-yard line. They lead it 7-1. Holloway comes out firing, but the pass was deflected. Steve Rocky was there once again. Rocky, you may recall, was injured last season. But when he's healthy, there is no better pass rusher in the CFL.
I think that was big number 71. Brett Williams, the defensive tackle, got his hand up on the football. And the Montreal Alouettes are very good at that, their front four. If they can't get the pressure and get in there, they get the hands up, and they deflect a lot of balls.
Holloway fires. It's complete. And this is the man that they want to get the football to, Craig Ellis. Ellis gets over the 40 to the 42. And as you can see, Condredge is very slow getting to his feet.
Oh, boy, and how many times have you seen this same scene over the last few seasons? Condredge Holloway has just taken a tremendous beating in the last 3 football seasons. We'll see after he releases this ball to Ellis, and, oh, you can't quite see it, but he takes a tremendous shot. I think it was Doug Scott, number 70, coming in.
Well, you mentioned that he's been injured so many times, and that's a fact. And yesterday at the press conference, Bob Obilovich was saying that he hoped that nothing would happen to Condredge in this or any other game, but if it did, they would be in much better shape than they were a year ago at the quarterback spot. Well, it's a 7-1 ball game. Argo's out in front of Montreal. We'll be back in a moment. Mike Olisic wanted to make sure the flow of this game kept moving, so he's just punted to Kerry Taylor, and on the return, he gets it back to about the 21-yard line, and that's where they're going to put it into play. But this man, around whom the entire Argo offense revolves, Condredge Holloway, appears to have suffered yet another knee injury. I mean, how many times can you go through the same thing and expect to be back? Dr. Jackson, one of the very best orthopedic surgeons in the country, will give Condredge all the help that he needs, but I don't know. Barnes' pass is caught once again by James Hood.
Well, James Hood only had 1 pass last week, already a few in the first quarter. Once again, Condredge Holloway, Fred Dunbar, the head trainer of the Argonauts, working on him as well. And boy, oh boy, anytime you start working on the knees there, you have to think that it could be a serious problem.
The pickup by James Hood was about 7 yards, so make it 2nd and 3. Montreal, the ball at their own 30-yard line. And Barnes is dropped back at the 25. Firing through there was number 77, Rodney Harding, the sophomore defensive end from the University of Oklahoma.
Well, a big 6'2", 250-pounder that they really expected big things from last year. Had 8 sacks last year, but they're really hoping he's the guy that's going to give them that fearsome pass rush. They didn't have any sacks last week, and they really have to improve in that department.
And let's give an assist, too, to Mark Seal, number 76, the former Ottawa Rough Rider who's putting pressure on him. McTagg's punt is very, very high. Joyner takes it at the 48-yard line, crosses the 50, and steps out of bounds at the 52. Now we'll wait and see who comes out onto the field to quarterback the Toronto Argonauts. Will it be the recently acquired Norman Gibbs, number 9, or rookie David Bates? Gibbs, who was acquired from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, has been in the CFL for 3 years, but has seen very limited play backing up Tom Clements in Winnipeg.
Yeah, John Hufnagel, pretty tough to take one of those two fellows' jobs. So Norman Gibbs really was not a heck of a lot of experience, although they always thought very highly of him in Winnipeg.
First down, Argos at their 52. The handoff goes to Craig Ellis. And Ellis gets to midfield and into Montreal territory. He was grabbed from behind by Lamont Jeffers, number 72, the second-year player from the University of Tennessee. And there's Condredge Holloway. And every time, of course, you look at somebody who's been around the CFL as long as Condredge has and sustains a knee injury, you've got to wonder, could this be the end of the line? Let's hope it isn't. But this certainly is a golden opportunity for Norman Gibbs, who's been waiting to become a first stringer. And he's dropped back of the line of scrimmage. Boy, he rolled out of there, and unfortunately for him, he rolled into Steve Rocky, number 99. That's his second sack of the ball game.
Well, Montreal defense, you always know that they're going to play well, and year in and year out. They get good pressure from their front four. Steve Rocky, Sandy Armstrong, Brett Williams, and Doug Scott. That's a good group with quite a bit of experience. Williams and Sandy Armstrong with the USFL, and of course Doug Scott's been around for 7 years.
So Hank Kalisic is back to punt for the Argos, standing inside his 40. Oh boy, this is quite a boot. This is Kerry Taylor from his 4-yard line. And because the punt was so high, it enabled Don Moan and that special unit to get downfield and contain that return to about 2 yards. The Argos are out in front of the Alouettes 7-1. We'll be back in a moment.
Argonaut quarterback Conrad Holloway has the brace undone and the ice on the left knee, but he is not leaving the field. In fact, has been limping about a little bit gingerly. He tells me he is going back in.
Well, he may tell you that, Dan, and as the rains continue to fall, I'll be very surprised if we see him on this field tonight. After that 54-yard boot by Alisic and just a 2-yard return, again, the Alouettes are backed up at their 5-yard line. They give us to Dan Huckluck. Huckluck puts his head down and fights his way out to about the 9. Argos, of course, reaching for the football. Marlon Jones comes up with it about 45 seconds after the whistle would blow. So the pickup was about 3 yards. Let's make it 2nd and 7 as you take a look at the tough going in there.
Well, he was up for some pretty big prestigious awards in his career at University. The Dick Butkus Award, the Vince Lombardi.
Well, the man we're talking about is Willie Pless, number 32, the linebacker for the Argos, as James Hood takes that pass from Joe Barnes and comes up very close to a first down. Boy, would the Als love to get this one.
Well, as they say in the football trade, the Alouettes this whole game have been playing on an extremely long football field. And that means that all their drives started so far back in their own territory, they just really have to go a long way to get any points. The Argonauts, on the other hand, well, they've been playing on a pretty short field in this first half.
It is a first down, Montreal. The ball is at their 17-yard line, and again, this is Dan Huckluck. That's exactly what I like about Huckluck. He's a fullback who just runs straight ahead, and if you get in his way, he puts his head and shoulders down and guaranteed he's going to drive you back a couple of yards.
Well, there's a few guys around the league like that. Jim Reed in Ottawa is the first name that comes to mind that has that same kind of style. Not overly fancy, but very effective, and he's the kind of guy that doesn't make a lot of mistakes, and coaches sure like to have them at that blocking spot.
Huckluck picked up 5 yards. It's 2nd down and 5 at their own 22 for the Alouettes. The screen is set up for Alan Reed. And Reed gets out to the 35-yard line before he's finally brought down by Darrell Wilson, number 13. And Don Moan was over there as well.
Well, number 60, the left guard, Blake Nill, the 4th-year pro from the University of Calgary, just does an excellent job. Watch, you're going to see him right here. He turns out number 21 in the corner, Marcellus Green, and that opens up the way for Alan Reed to gain some good yardage. That's the second time they've had success with that screen.
Pickup was 13 yards. First down, Montreal at their 35. This drive started at their own 5-yard line. Barnes' pass was intended for Mike McTagg, but diving across in front of him was Dennis Clay, and the pass goes incomplete.
Well, Mike's had a rough start tonight so far. Dropped one a little earlier, and maybe a ball that could have been caught there, but I guess the hand coming across just distracted him enough.
Boy, the Alouettes cannot get a break. Here it was expected to be nice in Montreal today. It was like the middle of October, and now it's raining on their parade as they come up with a 2nd and 10 from their own 35-yard line. Barnes going deep. Well, now Dennis Clay and the intended receiver, Kerry Taylor, got all entangled, but there is no flag on the play, although the Alouette fans certainly thought there should have been.
Well, number 14, Dennis Clay, had a lot of practice time to watch the moves of his former teammate, Kerry Taylor, and he just stays with him step for step and just does an excellent job.
And so Mike McTagg will be punting for Montreal with 7 minutes and 56 seconds left to play in this first half. with the Argos out in front 7-1.
Well, the one good thing they did, though, was get a couple of first downs and at least try and reestablish some kind of field position.
A little bit of a mix-up between the punt return team for the Toronto Argonauts. Joyner and Chris Woods got a little bit confused, and as a result, the ball bounced, but it was recovered by the Argos. Now, let's just wait and see if there is a penalty. There will be no yards when we come back. It is the Argos 7, the Alouettes.
No yards. Montreal number 81. First down.
So that's Sandy Armstrong, and the poor Alouettes can't catch a break tonight. Argos foul up the punt return and still end up making 15 yards on the penalty. So Toronto with quarterback Norman Gibbs at the controls in place of the injured Conrad Holloway begin at their own 53. Gibbs simply ran out of room. Steve Rocky was forcing him right to the sideline, and Gibbs, rather than put it up and risk the interception, fired it out of bounds.
Well, he wanted to set up a screen, but Montreal did such a good job defending it. He had no place to throw that football and finally ran out of time, and takes a pretty good shot from Steve Rocky. That's pretty close to grounding the football, too.
It's second down and 10 yards to go for the Argos, who lead it 7-1 as the rains continue to fall here at the Olympic Stadium in Montreal. Gibbs' pass is complete for the first down, or very close to it, at the Montreal 48-yard line, and it's caught by Paul Pearson, his first reception of the night. He caught 2 last week against Hamilton and grabs his first here this evening.
You know, the Toronto Argonaut offense really has good balance in that receiving core. You got the speedsters Woods and Joyner on the outside, and then a reliable guy like Paul Pearson who goes down, gets his 10 yards. You see he's going to pick up a first down, and that's the kind of reliable guy you want to have to, and not surprising that Norman Gibbs would go to him in that situation.
Ryan Dudley 15 and Rick Ryan 27 converged on him, but too late, as Paul Pearson picks up a first down for Bob Obilovich and the Toronto Argonauts. The ball is spotted at the 47-yard line with 6 minutes and 40 seconds left to play in the first half. Gibbs' pass was over the head of the intended receiver, but he did a good job. He was under considerable pressure from Brett Williams, among others, but Gibbs was still able to get the ball away despite the fact that it was not completed.
Well, there's no question about the philosophy of the Montreal Alouettes now with the young quarterback in there. They're coming with all the blitzes now to try and unsettle him. In fact, now on second and long yardage, they've taken out Steve Rocky, defensive end, and number 75, Ken Shanconi, will come in for a little better pass defense.
Going deep for Pearson, but it's over his head. And let's give credit there to that Toronto offensive line. They did an excellent job in protecting Gibbs. He had all the time that he needed.
Tony Antunovic not playing this week. Of course, we mentioned Jeff Arp in his place, and yes, Pat, they did a pretty good job that time, but Montreal only rushing 3 people.
Not true. They rushed 5. Hank Olisic is back to punt. Hank Olisic averaging 53 yards tonight. Angles this one for the sideline. Now let's see where he got it out of bounds. They'll spot it at the 15-yard line, and again the Alouettes are going to put it into play in very unenviable field position with 5:41 left. At halftime, we've got a very interesting show for you. You'll see the Pacific Western Stars of the Week, and we'll have a look at a man who had an unbelievable evening last week, Chris Sigler of the Ottawa Rough Riders. And we'll ask the commissioner and put him on the spot with a difficult question asked by you, the fans. And Leaf will be around with his first half analysis. Joe Barnes and the Alouettes starting from their 15-yard line. Now, there's a case where they could have called grounding, because Rodney Harding was all over Joe Barnes right at the goal area, and that's what they are going to do.
Yeah, when Joe let that ball go, all there was linemen out there. It appeared as though a screen was trying to be developed, but Rodney Harding with such good pressure, Joe had no choice.
Here's the call.
Intentional ground. Montreal number 7.
Well, the fans aren't too pleased, but I think it's a good call by Jake Ireland. Let's take a look.
Well, there's no question that Jake Ireland had a good view to see that. No pass receiver in the area. You've got to make that call.
Closest man there was Bob Lubick, number 51, the right guard. So it's second down now, all the way back at the 1-yard line. Loss was 14 yards. Dan Hucklock, the ball carrier, trying to get some breathing room for Mike McTagg, the punter, who will be standing deep in his end zone.
Yeah, there's not too many plays in the playbook for 2nd and 24 from your own 1-yard line, and I think Joe Barnes just kind of bit the bullet there, said hand off and hope Mike can get a good punt and get us out of here and let the defense play.
Well, the Argos, barring something completely unforeseen, are going to end up deep in Montreal territory when this is over.
Well, once again, they're going to have great field position, and it's kind of nice for a young quarterback like Norman Gibbs not have to start deep in his own territory.
Incidentally, if you're watching and you're saying to yourself, those end zones don't look as deep as I remember them being, well, of course, you're right, because they've cut them back 5 yards. The end zones in the Canadian Football League now are officially 20 yards deep. McTagg's punt is blocked. And the Toronto Argonauts have a touchdown because it was recovered by Darrell Wilson.
Well, I think it was number 27, the rookie wide receiver, Ken Joyner, who was in on that play to try and put some extra pressure with his feet on Mike McTagg. We're going to have a good look at it. But watch the top of your screen. I think it's 27, Kenny Joyner, and yes, it is. He's the man that got the hand on the ball. And number 13, Darrell Wilson, picks up his first touchdown of 1986.
It was just that momentary inability by McTagg to get the pass from center clearly that allowed Joyner to get in there.
Well, there's no question the balls are getting wet with the rain coming down. You saw it go through his hands, and the timing was all screwed up, and the Argos are the recipient of a nice block kick for a touchdown.
There has not been a point after missed in the CFL in 1986, and Lance Chomick isn't about to become the first. He's right through the middle, and the Argos, with 4 minutes and 39 seconds left to play in the first half, have jumped out in front of the Alouettes 14-1. A fine, outstanding individual effort by the newcomer to that Toronto Argonaut offense, Ken Joyner, in breaking through to block the punt, and then Darrell Wilson being Johnny on the spot to recover it.
Well, that lousy field position finally caught up with the Alouettes, you know, and tough break when you're struggling and you're looking still for your first win of the season. Those plays like that really have a deflating effect on the entire team.
Joyner just told me that he had a clean break all the way to the quarterback. He thinks one of the backs missed an assignment.
Well, they came with 11 men that time, and you do a few stunts on the line, usually you can free somebody up. They came close earlier, and Carl Brazeley almost got to one of McTagg's punts.
Well, there's the man who came through for the Argos. Number 27, Ken Joyner, and he's also caught a couple of very important passes. As Hank Olisic, who performs the kickoff duties for the Argos, has it all teed up at the 35. In case you missed Leaf's explanation earlier, that's where all kickoffs originate now in the CFL. Of course, the reason for that is to try to allow the return team better field position. This is Kerry Taylor. And Taylor did a pretty good job in sidestepping the initial tackler downfield. Gets the ball to the 30-yard line. And that's where Joe Barnes and the offense are going to take over. Just a reminder that next Friday night, the Argos will be in beautiful BC Place to meet the Lions. And that's a 10 o'clock start Eastern Daylight Time. You'll see it here on CTV, Friday Night Football. Argos have 113 yards total offense. Montreal 92, strangely enough. But it's all Argos on the scoreboard, 14-1. Barnes' pass is complete as he swings it out to Wes Cooper. And Cooper crosses the 30 to about the 32, but he only manages to pick up a couple of yards.
Freddie Dunbar, the reliable trainer of the Toronto Argonauts, giving a little assistance to number 66, Kelvin Prunster, the left offensive tackle of the Argonauts.
Pickup was actually, well, let's call it a yard. So make it 2nd and 9, Alouettes, excuse me. Barnes' pass, very, very nearly picked off by Dennis Clay.
Jacques Chapdelaine, who had 6 catches for 111 yards and 1 touchdown last week, and their loss to the Ottawa Rough Riders, could not come up with that pass. Boy, Joe Barnes really threw that into some heavy traffic, and Dennis Clay did have a pretty good shot at it. Well, here's Jacques Chapdelaine working across the middle. Not a fun spot to go for a wide receiver. There's some big guys waiting for you in there.
Well, you mentioned that.
And they want to hurt you.
Yeah, they're mean people. Mike McCagg, remembering, of course, that his last punt was blocked, won't have as much to contend with because he's not in his end zone, and the Argos only rush 10. Joyner comes up, makes a diving catch at midfield. The flag comes down, and no yards is going to be the penalty again against the Alouettes.
Glenn Keeble, number 58, the center for the Montreal Alouettes, looks like he was the one that's going to be flagged, and centers are usually the first guys down.
And the Alouettes aren't out of the woods yet by any means.
No yards. Montreal, number 58. First down.
So now, after the no yards penalty against Glenn Keeble, we'll take a look as Mike McCagg gets the punt away.
Well, once again, number 2, Carl Brazeley, came pretty close, and he didn't get the ball, but he forced McTagg into a pretty lousy punt, and the Argonauts, boy, it seems like all day have enjoyed excellent field position.
They're at the Montreal 40. Gibbs' pass is complete to Paul Pearson, and Pearson is thrown out of bounds at about the 33-yard line. And that's where the Argos will have it when we return. We've got 2:58 left to play in the half. Toronto is out in front of Montreal 14-1, and we'll be back in a moment.
Following tonight's telecast, the Carling O'Keefe Sports offensive game star will receive a Canadian Mint 1-ounce gold coin presented by Nikon. For once-in-a-lifetime shots, the Nikon One Touch, the simplest Nikon 35mm ever.
Are going to be in this ball game because really the offenses have not stood out. Strangely enough, Jacques Chapdelaine, who was really a factor in Ottawa last week for the Owls, has not caught a pass this week. So obviously the Argos doing a good job defending him and doing a pretty good job generally speaking. The pickup by Paul Pearson on the pass was about 6 yards. So it's 2nd and 4 Argos with the ball at the Montreal 33.5-yard line. With Norman Gibbs at quarterback in place of the injured Conrad Holloway. Well, now, this is hard to believe. A time count violation on a team that's just had a timeout because of a commercial break.
Well, I think, Pat, Norman Gibbs was trying to audible and change the play at the line of scrimmage, and that's what cost him the time count. But you think when they come out of a timeout, they'd be right up on the ball as soon as the referee blew his whistle.
Here's the call.
Time count violation. Toronto number 9. Loss of down. 3rd down.
See, we're in the final 3 minutes of the half here, so the penalty is the loss of down.
Well, and potential loss of a touchdown, too, because now they have to bring the field goal team in. And, boy, those mistakes just...
Yeah.
They give Obi a little gray hair, although he doesn't look like he's got any yet.
Well, he doesn't have much hair.
Now, you're a fine one to talk about hair.
The ball will be spotted at the 40-yard line. Lance Chomick had 4 field goals last week against Hamilton, and he's good here on this 40-yard attempt as the Argos will go out in front by 16 points, 17-1.
Hank Olisic is the holder. Well, actually, that's Lance Chomick that went down. I thought it was Hank that got hit, but Couldn't see who came through, but somebody gave him a pretty good shot.
Well, the Argos, of course, the training staff attending to Lance Chomik, but the biggest factor in this football game is the loss of Codridge Holloway right now, because if he's gone for the season, well, the Argos are going to face what they faced a year ago. An awful lot of opposition with rookie quarterbacks. And although Norman Gibbs has been in the CFL for 3 years, he wouldn't have a half-game playing experience. So the Alouettes are going to start from their 35-yard line. They may as well, because they haven't been able to return the kickoffs very far, and at least now they know they're going to start at the 35.
Oh, this is great field position for them.
Right.
They're delirious. I just checking. Well, Joe Barnes is still in the game. Brian Ransom had been warming up, and
he's an impressive-looking kid.
Yeah, I suspect if Joe doesn't get something going on this series, we might see a switch.
Complete over the middle to Kerry Taylor. He put a pretty good move on Dennis Clay.
Boy, he sure did.
Able to get to the outside and should have the first down.
Well, you know, that's what speed does for you. He just gave one little jab step to Dennis Clay, froze him enough, and then with that good speed that Kerry Taylor has, he gets to the outside.
Well, the Alouettes have to get some points on this series of downs because they trail 17-1 with 2:20 left to play in this first half, and they haven't been close to scoring, really. Barnes pass intended for Mike McTagg, broken up neatly by number 13, Darrell Wilson of the Argos.
And Willie Pless, number 32, also went on the play to get a pretty good hit on Mike McTagg. But, you know, Pat, you make a good point because it's 17-1. They can't afford to let it get out of hand because they're not a high-scoring team at all. They like to play games that are low-scoring and rely on defense. So it's really imperative that Joe Barnes try and get something.
Second and 10, Montreal from their own 45. And down he goes again. Number 79, Marlon Jones, was there to record the sack. The rookie pro from Central State College in Ohio. This is the fellow that Leo Cahill is so high on. Dan?
If the Argonauts get back within field goal range, it will be Lance Chomik back out trying the placement. He says someone rolled on his ankle. It's just a little sore. His left ankle, the one he plants with, but he's certainly fit to go back in, and he's just walking and jogging in place just to loosen it back up.
Who said kickers don't take any punishment?
Yeah. I'm glad to see Lance having a good year because he did get some heat last year, but he started off in fine fashion with 4 field goals against the Ticats. Now, this is a situation where the ball bounced back toward the Alouettes. They were trying to get away. The flag has to be thrown, but let's wait and see if they are going to be called for no yards. Yep, they are. And the Argos are again going to have good field position.
Well, you see number 5, who Roy Kurtz was on the field that time doing the punting, and he was the first guy in there to try and recover that ball. Let's see how they call that.
No yards. The player was a kicker. No foul.
Oh, well,
First down.
So it was, the flag was thrown because they did call no yards, but because it was Roy Kurtz who was the punter, it is waved off. And the Argos take possession at their 52-yard line. Toss goes to Craig Ellis. And Ellis, the former Saskatchewan Rough Rider, gets into the Montreal 48-yard line, and he has the first down for the Argos with 1:45 left to play in this half.
The Argos are getting very good job at point of attack. Number 51, Jeff Inglis, that time working on Doug Scott, just made a great block to get Craig Ellis to the outside. There's big Jeff, 6'5", 255.
Good-sized young fellow. I'm getting up there myself. Again, the toss goes to Craig Ellis. And again, he fights his way inside the 45 to about the 43. Steve Rocky may have been offside on the play.
Craig Ellis really likes to stick his nose in it, and he was telling me the way he got started playing football is all his friends said he was just simply too rough to play playground basketball. So when he was 8 years old, he switched from basketball to football.
He's a nice size, 6 foot, 200 pounds, very muscular in the upper body. And boy, as a running back, you really like to have that when you're sticking your nose in there.
the offside penalty against Montreal is accepted by Toronto. So make it 1st and 5. Argos with the ball at the Montreal 43-yard line. Warren Hudson, number 37, is the fullback in that Argo attack at this moment. So it's Craig Ellis and Warren Hudson as the pass goes to Craig Ellis. And this time he's nailed as he gets to about the 40.
Warren Hudson comes in and throws a pretty good block on Steve Rocky, the defensive end. Warren Hudson's a young guy who played with the Oshawa Hawkeyes in junior football. Got a chance to play a little bit for the Argonauts last year. Originally a linebacker, and due to injury problems, Bob Abilovich was forced to convert him to a fullback, and I think he's got a heck of a bright future with this team.
Well, Obi just thinks he's outstanding. Really
he's tough.
Yeah. Oh, Gibbs did a good job. Does he have quick feet, this kid? And Gibbs is all the way down to the 20-yard line. That was an impressive display by Norman Gibbs, who's in there quarterbacking the Argos in place of the injured Condredge Holloway. But watch how he gets out of trouble here.
Good pressure by the Alouettes. Once again, the blitz to try and rattle Norman Gibbs, but he gets away from William Mitchell, number 37, Matt Finley, and then does a nice job. Finally, number 23, David Daniels, who's playing his first game for the Alouettes, took him out of bounds.
Now, I'm hoping Craig Ellis is not injured, and I really don't think that he is. He went down as though he had been tomahawked because he wanted a timeout. Referee Jake Ireland was having none of that. Look, and now he's up, ready to go again. Jake Ireland was
Jake said, get out of here.
Yeah, so he just called a timeout. If that's what the Argos want, they got it.
And don't think the fans in Montreal don't know what's going on. You can hear them in the background.
And as soon as Ellis went down, it was the veteran Paul Pearson who had to tell Norm Gibbs, go to the sidelines, talk to the coach.
Well, it was one of the worst acting jobs I've ever seen. But it was a good try, Craig.
I like the tomahawk.
Oh, yeah,
That's
just like
good.
he was dropped.
Well, you'd be interested to know the entire bench is laughing at Craig Ellis.
Yeah, you can rest assured he'll be back in this ball game, and probably within the next 4 seconds.
And without the limp.
Norman Gibbs comes back out onto the field. And it's the first down for the Argos with the ball at the Montreal 21-yard line. Argos could really blow this game wide open. They lead it 17-1. If they stick this one in the end zone, it's a rocky road for Montreal to try to come back. Gibbs' pass to the end zone is intercepted. A big play by Rick Ryan. Change that and let's make it number 23 for the Montreal Alouettes. And number 23 is David Daniels. Well, they changed the numbers. David Daniels was assigned number 36 for this evening, but he ends up wearing 23. But number or not, what a play he makes. I thought, though, that Joyner did a pretty good job in adjusting to the football, but Daniels was there to make the interception.
Well, really a poor read by Norman Gibbs. They had double coverage on Kenny Joyner, the outside receiver, and Dave Daniels, in his first game, comes up with his first interception.
What a big, big play. Because now Montreal can get out of the half trailing by 16 as opposed to trailing by 23. And they give inside for a pickup of a couple of yards to number 22, Wes Cooper.
Well, don't be surprised to see the Toronto Argonauts use their timeout after the next play because there are 41
I think they've already
seconds.
used it when the acting job by Craig Ellis didn't take effect. I think that the referee...
Oh, did Jake charge him with a timeout at that point?
He didn't. It wasn't because they had called it. He charged him for the timeout for bad acting. Pickup was very close to 4 yards, so it's 2nd and 6 with 22 seconds showing on the clock. And again, this is Cooper. And Cooper, who was with Calgary but was cut last year, gets the ball on back-to-back occasions and picks up another 3 or 4 yards. And that brings the clock to 16 seconds, and the Alouettes will be able to run it out now. And referee Jake Ireland will whistle time in right now, and the clock is running. So all Joe Barnes has to do is keep the club back in the huddle long enough to make sure that the clock reads 0 when he gets the pass from center. He can go down on one knee, and that'll be it. And that's what he's going to do because they're just all huddled around him. And that's it. The first half is over. Montreal in a real big bind right now as they trail the Toronto Argonauts 17-1.
Coming up at halftime, the CFL This Week, in which we'll look back on highlights of last night's games. Doug Mitchell is here for his Ask the Commissioner segment. We'll have the Pacific Western Airlines Stars of the Week, and Leaf will analyze the first half. This is CTV's Friday Night Football.
Carling O'Keefe Sports, the CFL This Week. There were a couple of games last night in the Canadian Football League to kick off Week 2 of the 1986 regular season, and last year's Grey Cup contestants were featured. The defending champion BC Lions were on the road. They were in Edmonton to take on the Eskimos, while the Hamilton Tiger Cats played host to the Ottawa Roughriders. And while neither of last year's top teams turned in a top performance, the Tiger Cats are made to look especially ineffective on their home turf. Rough Rider Mark Baru spent most of the night open in the Hamilton secondary, and he sets a new Ottawa club record with 13 receptions. The big one came here in the second quarter. J.C. Watts finds Baruch wide open again in the far corner of the end zone. A 9-yard score, the only touchdown of the ball game. The Ottawa defense, meanwhile, completely shuts down Ken Hobart. The Riders are 2-0. The BC Lions last night had defensive problems of their own as they paid a visit to Commonwealth Stadium in Edmonton. They simply could not contain Eskimo quarterback Matt Dunnigan. First quarter, he opens the scoring with a 16-yard touchdown toss to Marco Sincar. 7-0 Eskimos. The Lions respond with a field goal, but then early in the second quarter, Dunnigan wants to take the aerial route again. Up the middle, Chris Johnstone this time an 18-yard touchdown. 32,000 fans on hand to celebrate. And while the Eskimo defense held Roy DeWalt to 9 of 27 passing, Damon Allen takes his turn, tossing a 5-yard scoring pass to Tom Richards. At 2-0, the Eskimos lead the West. They win 36-13. The Lions are 1-1. Now, back to tonight's game. The Alouettes offense, you may have noticed, looks considerably different than it did last year, but that has not been entirely through choice. A preseason injury has cost them the services of all-star tight end Nick Araki. Nick was injured in the Alouettes preseason game with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in Halifax when he had his legs taken out from under him and landed on his head. Nick, you're with us now. Tell us what your status is.
Well, right now I'm going to be in my cast for the next 2 months approximately. Depends on the healing, and if everything works out, I'll be back into rehab after that, and hopefully I'll be back playing next year. At this time, I'd like to take this moment to thank all the people across the country who have sent cards and well wishes. I really appreciated that, and I look forward to seeing you all next year.
Nick Araki out for the season, and he will be missed by the Alouettes. There is only one more game this weekend. Tomorrow night, the 1-0 Saskatchewan Roughriders are in Winnipeg. The Bombers looking for their first win of the year. We have a couple of games next weekend you can watch here on CTV. The Friday Nighter has the Toronto Argonauts under the dome to meet the BC Lions, while on Saturday night, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers are in Hamilton to take on the Tiger Cats. This is CTV's Friday Night Football. Our halftime continues. Throughout the CFL's 1986 season, most outstanding performances in the offensive, defensive, and lineman categories will earn Pacific Western Airlines Stars of the Week honors. Week 1 saw the lineman star going to Ottawa's Lloyd Lewis. Back-to-back sacks of Montreal's Joe Barnes secured the Rider lead and ultimate victory. Offensive Star of the Week and the CFL's most outstanding player in 1985, BC Lion Mervyn Fernandez started the 1986 campaign where he left off last season. The multi-talented receiver played several key roles in an important early season win over the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Tonight's CTV profile focuses on defensive star Chris Ziegler of the Ottawa Roughriders.
Number 38 had an exceptional game, intercepting 4 Joe Barnes passes, returning 1 for 70 yards and a touchdown. His accomplishment set an Ottawa Rough Rider single-game record and tied the CFL mark. Even more remarkable is the fact that Ziegler is playing a new position this season.
I had some concern with it in camp and everything, and I had a lot of work to do on my man-to-man coverage because of the free safety. You're not in that situation a lot of times, but through camp, did a lot of work at playing it and even extra work sometimes, and I think I, made some improvement on it, and hopefully keep making improvement there. It's still hard on me at times. The game definitely helped give me some confidence playing there. But like I said, there's still a lot of work, needed to be done.
Well, we felt that to make our defense stronger, we had to go with a Canadian at the rover spot. This meant to either cut Ziegler or else move him and look at him someplace else. He's a tough guy. He's an exciting football player that hits people, and we really didn't know whether he could play safety or not. So we moved him over there. He is not as fast possibly as some safeties in the league, but he covered better than I thought he would. And as far as picking the ball, well, you saw what happened against Montreal.
An energetic and outgoing young man, Chris enjoys being part of the Ottawa community.
Any public appearances we have around the city, he's one of the first guys in line to go and represent our football club, and he does a good job at it.
The position that we're in, we're pretty lucky individuals. We're out here working. Everybody may feel sorry for themselves some days, but you look around, and in the off season, I taught a class with autistic children and swimming, and you go in there and the things that you take, for granted every day, getting dressed and stuff like that, they can't even do that without help. And so, I get kind of it's very rewarding to be able to help somebody, unfortunately.
This Stars of the Week profile has been brought to you by Pacific Western Airlines, serving over 40 Canadian destinations. This is CTV's Friday Night Football. We are at halftime at Olympic Stadium, the Montreal Alouettes and the Toronto Argonauts. There has been considerable interest shown already in CTV's new halftime feature, Ask the Commissioner, where you, the fan, get to write in and put a question to Doug Mitchell, and he will answer one right now. It comes from Maria Tuppen of Nobleford, Alberta. She watched the season opener between Edmonton and Calgary and did not like the number of flags she saw. Commish, what's the problem?
Well, Dan, I think when you analyze it, you look at what's happened in the offseason. We put in a number of new rules. The new one on the punt return that you waive off the no yards penalty if the ball bounces back towards the kicking team. We're also not allowing as much interference with their pass receivers as we were in the past. So all of those things combined together with the instructions given to the officials to strictly enforce the rules early in the season to cut down on the number of infractions as the season progresses, I think lead to a number of penalties in the early part of the season, but hopefully it'll lead to cutting them down as we get into the season more.
Another new rule is protecting the quarterback a bit more.
Very much so. I think it's very important that we eliminate late hits. A number of spearing calls were made in the first few games, and I think that will lead to eliminating the sort of cheap shots where people can get injured and lose a career or eventually get out of the league, and I think that it's a very positive move for the officials.
So we see a flurry of flags now, but they will taper off as the season goes along. If you want to put a question to the commissioner, here's the address, 1200 Bay Street in Toronto. Do not forget the postal code.
And it's interesting to note that tonight we've only had 6 penalties in this ball game, and a couple of those were for no yards infractions, so actually both teams have done a good job. Well, offensively, the Argos 140 yards. Strangely enough, Montreal has 103, yet you wouldn't know it by looking at that score. Argos 17, Montreal 1. Leif, you've got to be impressed with a couple of things in that Toronto offense. First of all, Craig Ellis has fit in very nicely, but I'm really impressed by the newcomer wide receiver, Kenny Joyner.
Well, I am too, Pat, and they had a huge void to fill this year with the departure of All-Star Terry Greer, and it looks as though Kenny Joyner might be the guy that's going to help them out offensively. Had 2 catches in the first half. You're going to see them now back-to-back, and Conrad Holloway steps up in the pocket nicely to hit 5'9" Kenny Joyner, and he picks up a big first down in the first quarter for them. On the next play, once again back to Kenny Joyner. Conrad Holloway suffered a knee injury. We don't know if he'll be back in the second half, but nevertheless, a good pass there to Joyner. And this sets up Craig Ellis' first touchdown of 1986. Once again, Conrad Holloway, an excellent job to get away from Lamont Jeffers, number 72, and Craig Ellis with a little pirouette move gets in behind Bill Mitchell, number 31, for Toronto's first touchdown, and also Craig Ellis' first touchdown of 1986. Ken Joyner, once again, he figures big because he blocks a Mike McTagg punt. Number 13, Darrell Wilson, the defensive back, picks the ball up in the end zone for Toronto's second touchdown. They lead at the half, 17-1.
Well, that's exactly the situation as the Montreal Alouettes will prepare to take this second half kickoff. And they, of course, are hoping that they could strike quickly. If they can, they get back in the football game. If Toronto scores the next touchdown, obviously the chances of Montreal coming back would be virtually negligible. Joe Barnes, incidentally, has completed 10 of 19 passes, 81 yards. He's had one intercepted. Conrad Holloway was good on 5 of 8 for 70 yards before leaving the football game. He had one touchdown pass, as you saw, and also one interception. Norman Gibbs has come in and thrown the ball 6 times and completed 2 of them. But the thing that impressed me the most about Gibbs was he showed you that he had pretty quick feet as he rolled out for a 19-yard gain, being able to withstand the Montreal defensive pressure. Gary Durchik. Gary, my friend, you better get your club moving in a hurry because this man, Bob Obilovich, has his club all geared up. And that looks like Conrad throwing on the sidelines.
Yeah, it's funny. At the half, I went out and ran into Leo Cahill, and I said, the general manager of the Argonauts, Leo, have you heard any word on Conrad? And he said, well, I just spoke to our offensive coordinator, Artis Seltzer, who, of course, is in contact with the bench, and he said Conrad is okay and maybe could play in this second half.
Right. Dan told us that right after the injury, which I found almost unbelievable. Jeff Treflin for Montreal on the kickoff return gets the ball over the 35 to about the 38-yard line. Well, if you want to know all kinds of facts and figures about the Canadian Football League, you must have this book. It's just an outstanding publication. Now, if you're interested in acquiring one, it's $14.95 plus $2 in handling if you write to the CFL at 1200 Bay Street, or you can pick it up at your favorite bookstore, and it'll just be $14.95 with no handling charge. And into the ball game for the Alouettes is Brian Ransom. Now, Ransom is a young fellow that I think we'll probably like. He has a real good-looking delivery, or at least he did in the pregame workout. He's from the University of Tennessee at 6'3" and a couple of 100 pounds, and the Alouettes are extremely high on him to the point where he has moved in to the backup position in place of Mark Stevens.
And they signed him as a free agent. In fact, he played a couple of games last year for Hugh Campbell's Houston Oilers.
Ransom's pass is good. Very close to the first down marker. It is complete to Mike McTagg.
Well, he's got the nice size at 6'3" to step up into that pocket and deliver the football. And you mentioned we took a good look at him in the warm-up, and boy, he throws a nice tight spiral.
They brought the sticks out to see whether or not McTagg was able to pick up the necessary yardage for the first down, and he has. Well, we could have ourselves a football game if Montreal can get moving here. They have possession at their own 49-yard line. Argos are full value for the 17-1 lead, however. They have played well on both sides of the ball and really did shut down that Montreal offense. Ransom fires complete to Wes Cooper, and Cooper, as flags come down, takes that screen pass and gets very close to another first down.
Well, usually when the flag is thrown that late in the pass pattern, it's thrown in the area of the offensive line. There's not too much guesswork in what it's going to be.
That's the first holding penalty of the night.
Conrad Holloway is on the sidelines warming up, and he wants to go in, but he says Bob Obilovich has told him he will be available. And so I would suspect that they don't want to see him.
Montreal number 67. First down repeated.
Trevor Bowles, the right tackle, was called for holding.
Well, Dan, I think that's a very wise decision on Bob Obilovich's part. He has a 17-1 lead, and let Conrad get feeling a little better. There's really no reason to put him back in yet unless the game's in jeopardy.
Ransom's pass is complete to Mike McTagg. And McTagg is down to the Toronto 45-yard line, and a flag comes down. Now Carl Graisley is mixing it up with James Hood. And we're going to wait and see what this penalty marker will be all about.
Well, Carl Bracey's pretty excited, but I'll tell you, number 80, James Hood's a guy that likes to stick his nose in there and help out the other receivers blocking downfield. But an excellent pass pattern by Mike McTagg to find himself in an open area. Well, we talked about the arm of Brian Ransom. He really threw a strike.
Well, they picked up 26 yards. Now, I would assume that they will have the first down, and then the penalty will be marched off because it happened after the play was over.
Major foul, unnecessary roughness. Montreal number 58. First down.
Glenn Keeble, the center, is called for unnecessary roughness. But it is a first down for the Alouettes, although they have been marched back to their 50-yard line. The pass with James Hood hit him right in the hands. Providing the defensive coverage was number 21, Marcellus Green, but Ransom certainly did his job at quarterback.
Well, you can't ask for any more. Watch how he steps up. See, that's the key. He throws off his front foot, which is his left foot, being a right-handed quarterback, and he really gets some zip on the ball. But, you know, that's one of the problems that hurt Montreal last week in Ottawa, too. They just dropped some key passes, and, well, you get those drive killers. When a good pass is thrown, you've got to make the catch.
Ransom's pass was very nearly picked off by Darrell Wilson, number 13, who stepped in front of the intended receiver and nearly came up with the grab. James Hood thought he was going to make the reception, but Wilson was very keen and alert.
Well, this is a learning experience, I'm sure, for Brian Ransom. A ball he should not have thrown, and if he did, throw it to the outside where the defensive back does not have a chance to make that interception. Darrell Wilson, well, he really could have had that one.
Roy Kurtz is punting in place of Mike McTagg.
Mike has not had one of his great nights tonight.
No, I really do think it's very difficult, though, for a receiver who does so much running to be expected to do the punting as well. Look at this return by Chris Woods. This guy can fly. He had a 112-yard return against Hamilton in the first preseason game. He likes running back punts. Well, strangely enough, I don't think they use him enough offensively.
Well, it's interesting you should mention that with the new offensive coordinator, Artis Celta. He's notoriously a wide receiver type of offensive coach, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Chris Woods get the ball offensively a little more.
Argos 17, Alouettes 1. We'll be back in just a moment. Condredge Holloway continues to warm up on the sidelines. I was just thinking of the things Gary Durchik told me yesterday. He said we had individual breakdowns against Ottawa, dropped passes. Defensively, we played well except for the last drive. He could say the same thing about tonight's game because they've dropped passes. They've had individual breakdowns. This is Craig Ellis. And Ellis for the Toronto Argonauts gets to the 40-yard line for a pickup, about 2 or 3 yards. Montreal is playing well defensively. Lamont Jeffers, 72, was in on that play.
Well, they played well defensively last week as well, but, you know, was very happy to see Condredge running around on the sidelines there. You know, he so desperately wanted to come back in 1986 and get this team regrouped because they really did have a miserable season last year, and so glad to see that he's not hurt seriously.
Norman Gibbs is dropped back to the 32 by Doug Scott. Doug Scott over the years has been just an outstanding performer with Montreal. He was playing the tackle spot, but then they shifted him to the outside.
And nobody has done more as a player to try and revive football interest in Montreal than Doug Scott. He's traveled throughout the province doing a lot of public speaking and trying to encourage people to take an interest in the Montreal Alouettes. So he's certainly done his part to try and get things changed around here.
Really is a terrific individual. Doug Scott, number 70, records Montreal's 4th sack of the ball game. They're starting to look a little fired up, the Alouettes. Hank Olisic's punt was a strange one. It was a line drive. Jeff Treflin allows it to bounce around at the 38-yard line, puts his head down to the 42. I thought that Olisic was lined up about 3 yards too short in that punt formation. I don't know if you checked it out.
Well, I'm not sure if he was too short. It looked like he just got a horrible drop when he saw that heavy rush coming.
Well, Friday night football next week. Next Friday night, the Toronto Argonauts will be in BC's beautiful Dome Stadium, BC Place, to meet the Lions, and you'll see it all here on the full CTV network. And out to the 45-yard line for the Montreal Alouettes is Alan Reed, number 34.
Well, that game next weekend out in BC, obviously some good memories for some Toronto Argonauts. Of course, that's where they won the Grey Cup in 1983.
Wes Cooper, number 22, providing the blocking for Alan Reed as he picks up about 4 yards. So make it 2nd and 6. Is very close to a first down. He's a pretty cool-looking dude, isn't he? I mean, he stood back there, waited for things to open up for him.
Pretty similar to what Norman Gibbs was able to do late in the second quarter for the Argonauts when things were all jammed up. Take off and run with that football at 6'3". You know, you're going to fall for an extra few yards if you get close to that first down marker.
But what impressed me was he stood his ground. He didn't have the feet that were running all over the place. He looked, saw that there was nobody open, and then he took off.
Well, you know what they teach running backs, when you come against two potential tacklers, they say go right between them, try and split them. And as a quarterback, that's what he did. So, you know, he's had some running experience wherever he's played his ball.
It's first down, Montreal. Well, the intended receiver, James Hood, stopped running because he saw that Ransom was in trouble. Had he continued, he might have had a shot at that ball because Ransom was able to get out of the rush.
You know, as a quarterback, you just hate like heck to see your receiver stop on a pass pattern. You know, I don't know if James Hood was just clearing out an area, but he just quit on the play, and there's nothing that drives a quarterback crazier than when your receiver stops. I know if I ever did that, Ron Lancaster would throw it right in the back of my helmet.
So it's 2nd and 10. Montreal, the ball at their 53-yard line. Ransom's pass is caught by Alan Reed. And Reed struggles to get to about the 51-yard line, which will leave him short by 3 yards. David Marshall, number 73, the middle linebacker in that Argo 4-3 defense, was there to make the stop.
David Marshall, number 73, played with the Cleveland Browns the entire 1984 season, so he does have pro experience. 4 games with the Argonauts last year, and now, of course, back as their starting middle linebacker.
Chris Woods is number 70. He can fly. If you followed his career with the Edmonton Eskimos, you know, he's got that great speed, and that's what Bob Obilovich was saying was the biggest improvement in his football team this year. Team speed. Graisley again very nearly got through to block that one. Woods is at his 2-yard line. Well, he's doing exactly what we talked about. Chris Woods is an outstanding punt returner. He's got the good hands, he's got good speed, and he's got excellent instincts for running the football. Take a look at him. Starts from the 2-yard line, and watch him break through that seam.
Well, number 72, Lamont Jeffers, does the right thing. He forces him back to the inside, but a couple of missed tackles. Steve Rocky can't hang on to him, and what an exciting performer he is.
A 46-yard return that gives Toronto possession at their 51-yard line, and will... Chris Woods, number 70, who returned that punt 46 yards, had an outstanding career at Auburn University, and then went to the Edmonton Eskimos as a free agent and showed the kind of speed that he had. Now, he's playing out his option this year. Consequently, Edmonton has that policy where they don't like to have guys on the ball club who are not signed. So that's how the Argos were able to get him. And again, Norman Gibbs is dropped, this time in the arms of Lamont Jeffers, number 72, the linebacker from the University of Tennessee.
Well, the way this game seems to be going for the Alouettes, it looks as though it's going to take a big play on defense to maybe turn it around for them. So they're coming with the blitz. Jeffers gets in, makes a good play, but what they really need is a turnover, a fumble, or an interception, something to just create a little life on their squad right now.
Jeffers has played particularly well for the Alouettes, and there's the toaster, the man who says he can burn them on both sides of the ball because they bring him in on short yardage situations. They haven't had any opportunities tonight to use him. And just beyond the outstretched hands of Stephen Cox was the pass from quarterback Norman Gibbs. Cox has not caught a ball here this evening.
Originally signed by the Saskatchewan Roughriders, was traded to Toronto 3 seasons ago and missed most of last year. In fact, I think he missed all of last year, didn't he?
Came to the Argos in 1984, did not play last year because of an injury, and is back now at that inside receiving spot. And as a matter of fact, it was Stephen Cox who stole the job away from Kerry Taylor, and that's what has upset Kerry so much that he wanted to have the big game here tonight. Hasn't unfolded that way to this point. Well, another line drive by Hank Olisic, Jeff Treflin from his 24-yard line. So, what a great tackle. I mean, just an unbelievable tackle by Dennis Clay. And so the Alouettes, who desperately need a big scoring drive here, will start at their 30-yard line. Well, next Saturday evening, we'll be in Hamilton's Ivor Wynne Stadium to watch the Grey Cup champion Winnipeg Blue Bombers of 2 years ago, of course. Grey Cup champions from 2 seasons ago against the team they beat in that 84 Grey Cup game, the Hamilton Ticats. We'll have it for you here on CTV. This is Alan Reed. And Reed gets his little body out to the 35-yard line. He's not a very big guy, but he can take a lot of punishment. He's 5'8" and 185 pounds.
Speaking of the Hamilton Tiger Cats, had a chance to have a long chat with Angelo Mosca yesterday, former defensive great with the Ticats. He's got a wrestling show that's coming out in the near future on television.
Well, there isn't very much grass growing under Angie's feet, I'll tell you. He's a growing concern.
He sure is a lot of fun to sit around and talk to.
That pass was deflected into the arms of number 32, Willie Pless, who makes his second interception of the ball game and gives Toronto possession at their 53-yard line. That was a tough break for quarterback Brian Ransom.
Well, Brian Ransom threw a perfect strike. I believe it was number 80, James Hood, that the ball bounced off his chest, and the alert Willie Pless with his second of the game.
So the Argos continue to lead at 17-1, and we'll be back in a moment.
At last, a great taste in beer comes to light. New Old V Light. Like a breath of fresh air, light beer, just the way you want it. With a great satisfying taste that refreshes like a cool breeze on a hot afternoon. So spread the word. With new Old V Light, a great tasting beer comes to light.
Many cars try to be both a family car and a road car. You are looking at the one that has distinguished itself from a crowd of pretenders. Pontiac 6000. It wins the ultimate test. More people choose the Pontiac 6000 than any other mid-size car in Canada. Pontiac builds excitement. Now, GM is offering air conditioning at no extra cost on specially equipped models of the Pontiac 6000.
That's the score, and that's the man. Willie Pless has 2 interceptions tonight for the Argos.
You know, he was the MVP in the Blue-Gray game, which is a all-star classic for college seniors in the United States, and I guess really why he didn't get drafted or didn't have a good shot at the NFL was his height, only 5'10", and of course by NFL standards far too small, but he seems to really be fitting in well to the Toronto scheme.
He's perfect proof of the difference between the 2 leagues. This is Craig Ellis. And Ellis shows you the running ability that has made him one of the top backs in the CFL. Ellis scampers all the way down to the 40-yard line, picks up 18 yards, and gives Toronto yet another first down.
Well, Dan Matheson mentioned earlier that Craig Ellis is a tough customer, and he sticks his nose up there, and nice blocking by that Toronto Argonaut offensive line. You know, there's been some criticism. They've given up too many sacks, but they've really done an excellent job blocking for the run tonight.
Strangely enough, that's the Argos' first down of this second half. And again, this is Craig Ellis. This time, however, the entire left side of that Montreal defensive unit just converged on him. And as a result, his pickup is negligible. Matt Finley, 37. Lamont Jeffers, 72. Brett Williams, 71. They were all there. So the gain is, well, let's say he got back to the line of scrimmage, not much further. Make it 2nd and 10, Toronto. And the Alouettes definitely need a defensive stand right here. down to the 2-yard line. Well, you couldn't draw that play on the board any better than it was executed by Norman Gibbs and Paul Pearson.
Well, every team has this pattern in their playbook. It's designed to go against zone coverage, a 3-deep zone, and the inside receivers just go straight down the field and find that open seam, and Norman Gibbs just throws a beautiful strike to the reliable Paul Pearson.
Well, one of my favorite players in the league is Paul Pearson. He's another guy who's going to give you everything he's got. He's reliable, as you just mentioned. He'll catch the football in heavy-duty traffic. And now he gives the Argos an opportunity to go further ahead. First and touchdown to go from the 2-yard line. The give is to Craig Ellis. He fumbles the football. The Alouettes have recovered. There is a penalty marker down on the field, however. Procedure.
Toronto, no end.
They had no end.
First down.
Oh, what a break. And the Alouettes needed a break. They haven't had one all night. And just as it appeared as though Toronto might salt this game away in the third quarter, Craig Ellis cannot get in the end zone, coughs the ball up, and there's number 15, Brian Dudley, to get the fumble recovery.
Norman Gibbs has completed 3 of 8 passes for a total of 53 yards. And all 3 passes, strangely enough, have been to Paul Pearson. Now the responsibility rests with Brian Ransom to get Montreal on the move. They're tucked away down at their 2-yard line. Well, there was miscommunication there because Kerry Taylor was there. So too was James Hood. And the ball fell to the ground harmlessly.
Well, of course, you like to get the turnover to get the ball away from Toronto, but you sure don't want to have your young quarterback start back in that deep territory. He's got to be careful here. He doesn't want to cough one up.
No, similarly, though, he wants to get, a first down. He wants to put the ball in the air and see if they can generate something, because offensively, they really have not been able to do much. Now, this time he finds McCagg down the seam, and Mike slipped down to one knee, and that's unfortunate because he could have picked up a lot more yardage, but important for Montreal. He gets them out of the shadow of their own goalpost out to the 38.
Pat, that's exactly the same pass pattern that Paul Pearson just caught for the Argonauts. They were expecting a zone on 2nd and long. They got it. McTagg found the open seam, and Brian Ransom hit him with a perfect strike. And oh, what a big play that is to get them out of trouble.
Jerry Nash got an arm on him, and that was enough to trip him up. And scampering for Montreal, number 22, Wes Cooper, is out very close to another first down. Gary Durchik, the coach of the Alouettes, really likes this young kid. Not a very big fellow, but compact and powerful.
We know all about that. Could we describe you that way or what?
I would hope so.
Isn't it funny, how sometimes one play can really turn a game around? I think obviously the fumble recovery was important, but that big catch by Mike McTagg really seemed to give not only the crowd a lift here in Montreal, but the team looks like they got a little more enthusiasm. And here comes the toaster.
The toaster is the man who wears sweater number 71, Brett Williams. They insert him in short yardage situations. He's in that backfield right now. Let's see if he carries the ball on 2nd and inches. He's not going to carry it. The quarterback, Brian Ransom, keeps it himself, and he gets the first down. Now, there's still a lot of time for Montreal to get back in this game. We've got 2 minutes and 5 seconds left to play in the third quarter. But if they're going to get back in it, they better do it now. Toronto 17, Montreal 1. First down, Alouettes. The ball is up there, 49.5-yard line. Ransom sets up the screen to Alan Reed. Now, isn't he a great little back, though? He's going to do anything within his capability to make sure that he gets the maximum out of every play that he carries the ball.
Well, a great call by Brian Ransom, the screen, and watch number 51, the right guard, Rob Lubick, come across. He wipes out 2 Argonauts, and let's correct that. That's 66 Lloyd Fairbanks, but a nice job of running with the football, too, by Alan Reed.
Ransom's pass was intended for James Hood. The Alouettes fans felt that maybe there was contact before the ball reached him. That was not Ransom's best pass of the night.
I'll tell you, Carl Braisley, number 2, playing that cornerback for the Argonauts, is a KG veteran. 7 years in the CFL. Spent some time with Montreal. 4 years now with the Argonauts. Eastern All-Star last year.
Second down for the Alouettes. They're almost in a situation where they've got to start going on third down if they don't make it. Pass is intended for Hood. He adjusted to the ball well, but there should have been offensive pass interference because he definitely pushed off Carl Braisley.
Well, a push is okay if you don't get caught. That time he didn't get caught. I really thought he might come up with this catch because he could see the ball the whole time, and really Carl Braisley was turned around and ball just a little underthrown. Geez, he might have had it though.
Slipped just before he got to the football. And so Roy Kurtz comes out onto the field for a 50-yard field goal attempt. Darrell Moyer is the holder. And it's good. Oh, boy, that's got to help the Alouettes immensely. Now, instead of trailing 17-1 or more than 2 7-point touchdowns, they're back to where 2 touchdowns wins it for them. I mean, it's not a whole lot to get excited about, but it certainly improves their situation.
And it's a little more exciting than what the fans here in Montreal have had for the first almost entire 3 quarters.
So the Argos are going to take possession at the 35-yard line. And here's the look at what the Alouette logo has looked like over the years. There's the 1946 logo, and then we just progress, and you'll see the change. You'll remember the 1970 Grey Cup team had that logo, and then, of course, the Montreal Concords have been in existence for the last few years. There's their logo, and now the one that's probably most familiar to everyone, that one. The Montreal Alouettes are back in business. First down, Toronto. The ball is at their 35-yard line. Norman Gibbs is the quarterback. His pass is complete to Craig Ellis, and he is stuck immediately by number 23, David Daniels, the man who is in there replacing Miles Darling, who was injured in the Ottawa game last week.
You know, you don't like to wear this out and say it's such a critical series defensively, but I think this really is. You know, they just got a field goal. A little momentum was maybe shifting, so defensively now you've got 2nd and 4. You'd really like to stop the Argonauts and get that ball back.
Ball is just outside the 40-yard line. Gibbs pulled it down and gets the first down in a big, big play. There's good coverage by that Montreal secondary. And when Gibbs could find no one open, he took off himself, gets the first down, and the Argos will have the football when we come back to start the 4th quarter of play. They are out in front of the Alouettes, 17-4. 13,281 on hand watching the Toronto Argonauts begin play from their 46-yard line here as we start the 4th quarter. Toronto is going to run the football in the hope, of course, of being able to run as much time off that clock as possible, as Craig Ellis was the ball carrier. It's hard to believe. Montreal Alouettes have more yardage than the Argos, and yet all they have to show for it are 4 points from Roy Kurtz. The pickup by Craig Ellis was about 4 yards, making 2nd and 6. Argos from their 49. Big play. Big play by William Mitchell to sack the quarterback, Norman Gibbs, back in the 40-yard line. Now that should be able to crank up these Alouettes. The question is, will the Argo defense allow them to move the football? They have not so far tonight.
A nice job by William Mitchell. He jumped right over top of the blocker and got right in the face of Norman Gibbs. So even if he'd wanted to try and release that ball, there was no chance he could get it downfield.
6th sack of the night for that Montreal defensive unit.
It's tough to say, isn't it? 6th sack.
Thank goodness I don't have false teeth. Oh, good punt this time by Illicit. This is Kerry Taylor at his 13. Good job by Taylor. Gets out over the 25 to about the 26-yard line. So that's where the Alouettes are going to put it into play when we come back. It is Toronto 17, Montreal 4. We'll return in a moment.
Brian Ransom went long successfully to Mike McTagg in the last Alouettes offensive series, but he is no mad bomber, according to McTagg. He says just because we have a different quarterback, we have a slightly different philosophy. Of course, Joe Barnes likes to throw short. Ransom is very capable of throwing long.
Well, let's see if he can do it now as the Alouettes begin from their 25-yard line. The handoff goes to Alan Reed, and he gets to the 30 for a pickup of 5. All kinds of time left in this fourth quarter. We're just underway. 13 minutes, 15 seconds left to play. Now, as you look at that score, you say, well, Toronto's got this one nicely in hand. They do at the moment. A touchdown by Montreal would change the entire complexion. But they need first downs is what they need. Ransom sets up. The pass is ruled what? Complete or not complete? No, definitely bounce.
I don't think he caught it.
I thought I saw it bounce, and they are bringing it back. So it'll be third down.
Well, there you saw the kicking shoe of Hank Olisic.
You also saw the water come up off that turf. We had heavy-duty rain. It stopped, I presume, now, Daniel. Has it or not? I think Dan's got inside. He didn't want to stand out there anymore.
I don't think it's raining anymore, is it?
Kurtz's punt bounces in front of Kenny Joyner. And he picks it up, gets very close to midfield. So, as has been the story the entire game, because Toronto's kicking game is so much better than Montreal's, they establish field position much better than the Owls do.
Well, I've been impressed with Kenny Joyner. You know, a lot of guys might have let that ball just roll around and wait for a nice, good hop, but he just got right in there and picked the ball up and got a few yards. A couple of big pass receptions, blocked a punt. Maybe he's the answer with Terry Greer gone.
Well, he's not a very big guy at 5'9" and 175 pounds, but he sure plays like somebody who's 6 feet and change. The pass is caught by Joyner. And some good moves to get inside the 40 to about the 37-yard line. I mean, there's a play that when you looked at it, you said this thing is going nowhere. And Joyner picked his way down for a pickup of 19 yards.
And if you'll watch closely here, as Joyner's feet come back to the ground, he's off like a shot. One good cut, a couple of good blocks. There's a block by
Jeff Arp.
Jeff Arp, number 56, in his first game with the Argonauts. But Kenny Joyner, boy, he's got quickness.
First down for the Argos. The ball is at the Montreal 37. Intended for Joyner, but it was knocked away neatly by another rookie in that Montreal secondary, Steve Benjamin, number 2, the youngster from Los Angeles, Cal State.
He had a good game last week against the Ottawa Rough Riders, and watch how he works his way around Kenny Joyner, breaks on the football, and he seems to be an excellent cornerback for the Montreal Alouettes. Of course, they lost former All-Star Harry Skipper, and Andre Francis was traded away last year, so they've had to revamp this secondary. Terry Irvin and Steve Benjamin on the corners for them.
Second down and 10. And Gibbs is dropped by Lamont Jeffers, number 72. And Bobby Layden, that is his second sack. And how many sacks on the night? 7 now for that Montreal defensive unit.
It's funny how fate works, you know, with Lamont Jeffers. Last year, the injury to Ken Shanconi occurred. They brought in Lamont Jeffers for 2 games. He played so well that now he's the starter. And
holding, Toronto number 37. Decline, third down.
And although Ken Shanconi really isn't ready to play, Lamont Jeffers remains the starting outside linebacker for them and playing exceptionally well.
Incidentally, the holding penalty, which was declined by Montreal, was called on number 37, Warren Hudson. And with that big sack by Lamont Jeffers, Toronto is forced back to the Montreal 45-yard line. And they are out of field goal range now as Hank Olisic comes in to do the punting. The angle throws it toward the corner. Rolls in there, and Montreal will not be all that disappointed about this turn of events, because although Toronto gets the single point, it really doesn't affect them that badly, but it does make the Argos score 18, the Alouettes 4, and we'll be back in a moment. Hank Olisic's 65-yard punt has given Toronto a 14-point advantage, but Montreal, needing some field position, get it now because of that single point out to their 35-yard line. Well, Mr. Brian Ransom, who took over from quarterback Joe Barnes, if you're going to get it done tonight, you better start right now, because we've got 10.5 minutes left to play in the ball game. Pass was low, but Cooper did a good job of scooping it up, but because he had to bend down so low, Dennis Clay was able to get over there, and he makes the stop along with Willie Pless, the linebacker, number 32.
Well, Willie Pless really has some great quickness. We've seen him pick off 2 balls tonight, but both he and Dennis Clay do a nice job containing Wes Cooper there. Dennis Clay does a good job. Breaks down nicely, forces him out of bounds. A little help from Carl Brazeley as well.
Spotter Bill Marsden's a pretty excited guy tonight because tomorrow his number 1 daughter, the very firstborn, Mary Kay, will become Mrs. Mark Ellsworth of Texas. Mary Kay, my love, all the best to you, and have a big day tomorrow. We'll be there and looking forward to it. 2nd and 10. Ransom puts it high, but right into the arms of number 21, Marcellus Green. James Hood drills him in the back. That was not the best pass that Brian Ransom will ever throw.
No, that looks like the old alley-oop that you throw at the end of the game and hope for a tip ball or something, because this thing just went straight up. And I'm a little surprised James Hood really doesn't fight for this ball or cut back into the middle. You know, you'd think he'd really try and break it up, but gives Marcellus Green a pretty good shot in the back, but that means nothing because Marcellus Green's got the ball back for the Argonauts. I thought he should have gone and tried to break that up.
Yeah, it's a good point. But mind you, you should know about that, having played 8 years in the CFL with both Saskatchewan and Hamilton. The Argos from the 29-yard line. The give is to Craig Ellis, and he's hit back to the line of scrimmage by Lamont Jeffers, number 72, who really has been all over the field tonight.
Well, when we talk about our Carling O'Keefe offensive and defensive game starts, you'll have to consider number 72, Lamont Jeffers, 2 sacks on the night, and that time Warren Hudson, number 37, the young fullback, came out to block Lamont Jeffers. Lamont Jeffers just put him right to his knees and then made the tackle.
18-4. Argos lead it. 9 minutes, 20 seconds left to play in the 4th quarter. Norman Gibbs. The pass intended for Chris Woods, maybe, or Paul Pearson, maybe. It was over the head of Pearson and underthrown for Chris Woods.
But what we're seeing here now with both quarterbacks on either team is little inexperience, and they just don't get the practice time to work with the starting wide receivers. And it shows with Brian Ransom's last interception and this intended pass for Paul Pearson, just a little miscommunication on where the receiver was going to go, and the ball went away.
Another factor for the Argonauts, Leaf. I was talking to Bob Bronk just before this series, and they had not scored a point in this half until that punt single, and he said they just had a halftime letdown. He says they are not executing as well in this half as they did in the first.
Jeff Treflin from his 33-yard line, and here's the end around to Kerry Irvin. Now that's an excellent call because, boy, they really caught the Argos on that one. All the flow was going to the right. They just brought it back with Kerry Irvin to the left. And look, for the Alouettes, are going to have the football.
Now, Gary Taylor, in fact, Jeff Treflin hands off to Terry Irvin, picks up a couple of good blocks downfield, but Montreal's notorious for that. They always get some good returns on their special teams.
It's an 18-4 ball. Here's the situation. The Alouettes have a first down at the Toronto 48-yard line, and they need touchdowns now. They trail by 14 points as they set up the screen for Alan Reed, but a big play by Don Moan, number 36, read it perfectly, just came out and snuffed it out back to the line of scrimmage.
The Montreal Alouettes have had some success with the screenplay tonight, but this time Alan Reed has no running room as the fifth-year pro from University of British Columbia, number 36, Don Moan, just does a heck of a job, not only reading it, but coming in and making the tackle as well.
The loss was 3 yards, make it 2nd and 13. Right down the middle, the pass is caught by Jacques Chapdelaine, his first of the evening, and he gives Montreal a huge first down inside the 30 and above the 28.
Well, he had a big game last week, as we told you, against Ottawa, and this is just a zone pass route. Find the open spot, settle down in that area, and hope the quarterback can read it and get the ball into you. He did an excellent job. Nice pass pattern.
23 yards, the game. Ransom's pass is kicked out. This is Carl Braisley. And from a Montreal point of view, that's too bad, but let's credit Carl Braisley, who's spent a lot of time in the CFL, 7 years, and Brian Ransom has not, because he threw this one directly to him.
Well, Carl Braisley had the only Argonaut interception last week in their big win over the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Tonight, I believe, the 3rd interception for the Argonauts. Willie Pless with 2, and now Carl Braisley with his 2nd of 1986.
6. First down.
You'll notice that Brian Ransom was there to make the tackle. But that isn't going to help the Alouette cause. However, there was obviously a penalty marker on the return because the ball is being placed down at the 10-yard line. It's the 4th time that Montreal has turned the ball over this evening, and none more important than this one. I believe that's Glenn Keeble, number 58. It is.
You know, I talked about Doug Scott earlier doing so much promotional work throughout the province to try and create interest for the Montreal Alouettes. Number 58, the center, Glenn Keeble, is also one of those guys that just spends a great deal of time trying to promote football in Quebec.
Well, Glenn and Doug Scott are both Montrealers, so they live here year-round, and they're right into the community.
Well, and he knows so many people. He's a product of junior football in Quebec, the Verdun Maple Leafs, and he's been around 6 years. People know him. They know his name.
Craig Ellis, the ball carrier, couldn't get to the outside. He got maybe a couple of yards to the 12-yard line. We'll see where they spot it down. Let's credit Craig Ellis with a 2-yard gain, make it 2nd and 8. Clock, of course, becomes all important now. 6 minutes, 30 seconds left to play in the 4th quarter. Toronto 18, Montreal 4. Norman Gibbs' pass is caught by Chris Woods, but he got caught up in the traffic at the 14-yard line. It was William Mitchell who was there to bring him down, and the Argos will be punting. But in back-to-back games now, the Alouettes have not been awesome offensively.
No, they've really struggled offensively. You know, I said before, defensively, they've played well enough to win that game in Ottawa, I think, last week, and, of course, well enough tonight. Here's Chris Woods in the quick screen. This is the kind of play you'd like to get to the speedy wide receiver, but William Mitchell, number 31, an ex-Toronto Argonaut, makes a heck of a play, and Montreal will get the ball back in pretty good field position. They've got 11 men up on the line of scrimmage, so I think they're going to go after Illicik pretty hard here.
He gets a driving punt away, however. Treflin has trouble with it back at his 35. Dennis Clay is down quickly to make the tackle for the Argos. The Alouettes have possession at their 47-yard line. That was a driving 61-yard punt by Hank Illicik. An 11-yard return, so the net is 50 yards for Toronto. And now the Alouettes, with 5 minutes and 48 seconds left, have to send out the medical staff to attend to Steve Rocky, who is limping off the field.
Well, Hank Illicik knew the rush was coming hard and knew he had to get the ball away quickly. Number 90, Tony Lawson, was coming in on him, but Hank just uncorked a beautiful 61-yarder to get them out of trouble.
And Hank is now putting the way everybody in North America knew that he could. When he was able to relinquish his field goal duties, I think it's really put him back in the pink from a punting point of view.
Well, it sure has. Quite frankly, he did not have any success as a field goal kicker, and I think mentally it screwed him up so badly that it affected everything. And now he's relaxed. All he has to do is punt and kick off, and he's done a great job tonight.
Averaged 47 yards. And he had a 65-yard single. This time he got away a 61-yarder when they needed it. Ransom's pass is caught by Mike McCagg, and McCagg gets out of bounds after being hit by Don Moan. And he does not pick up the first down, but he stops the clock, and he also picks up 8 yards.
Hank, when he first started with the Edmonton Eskimos, I was still playing in Saskatchewan at that time, and he used to leave right after high school to get to practice and start with the Eskimos. 10 years. And St. Joe's, that's not a university, that's a high school.
Second down, 2 yards to go. Montreal right at midfield. This is Alan Reed. Little stutter step got him inside the 50 to about the 48-yard line. He's brought down there by Darrell Wilson, number 13. So it's first down, Alouettes. They've got a lot of time. There's 5 minutes left, but they obviously have to score on this drive. And we're talking about a touchdown. Otherwise, the Argos will go to 2-0. They'll be tied with Ottawa on top of the Eastern Conference. Alan Reed dropped that ball, and some fans may not be too pleased about that. As it turns out, it was probably the best thing because David Marshall was going to unload on him, and probably Reed would have lost yardage on the play.
Yeah, pass just a little low for Alan Reed. When you swing that back out of the backfield, you want to give it to him as quickly as you can, and maybe you should have put a little more mustard on it.
The pass is intended for Jacques Chapdelaine. Boy, you talk about having to have courage. When you come across the middle and you see a fellow like Dennis Clay and Marcellus Green, 14 and 21, it's not surprising that sometimes the intended receiver drops the ball.
Yeah, your eyes get a little bigger when you see those guys coming at you, and especially when the ball's high. He really didn't take too much of a shot there, but certainly the expectations of getting really cranked, I think, took his concentration away from bringing that ball in.
Well, it's third down, and you see what the Alouettes are going to do. They're going to go for it. 3rd and 10 from just inside the Toronto 49-yard line. The Argos jumped offside. However, I don't see a flag down. The pass was thrown into heavy traffic. It was intended for Mike McCagg, and it simply goes incomplete. It's funny, I noticed the official reached for his flag, and then he said, I'm not throwing it.
Well, number 79, Marlon Jones, initially jumped offside, but I guess he got back in time, and Brian Ransom tries to feather this ball into Mike McCagg, but Mike just couldn't come up with a catch, and pretty heavy traffic there. 36, Don Moan, once again around the football. Seems like he's been around it all night long.
Montreal has had 15 first downs in this ball game. Toronto only 13, and Montreal has 265 yards total offense. Toronto 203. Yet the Argos lead at 18-4. One of their touchdowns, however, coming on a blocked punt. They swing this one out to Craig Ellis. He was able to evade the first tackle. And look at him, still on his feet. Rick Ryan had him all lined up. And Ellis was able to break the tackle, and look where he ends up, down around the 45-yard line.
Well, once again, a good close-up look at Craig Ellis, and Rick Ryan really should have had him.
The pickup was 19 yards. And I think you can start singing your song about turning out the lights, because this one is in the record books, I would suspect.
Do me a favor and don't sing it, though.
Norman Gibbs is dropped back to the line of scrimmage. That'll be another sack for the Montreal Alouette defense. Lamont Jeffers, his 3rd of the ball game. The Argos are out in front, 18-4, with just 3 minutes left to play in the ball game. We'll be back. People standing in the rain, you can see it driving against the scoreboard. Well, I got to think that Lamont Jeffers has a real good shot at being named the defensive game star from a Montreal point of view. Maybe Willie Pless for Toronto. He intercepted a couple of passes. They were at critical stages. But we'll have them for you, the offensive and defensive game stars, right after the ball game. First down, Argos from the Montreal 45. Well, Steve Rocky did not get the sack, but he sure helped out Sandy Armstrong because he turned Norman Gibbs right into him. And that's the 9th sack of the night.
Well, Sandy Armstrong switched with Doug Scott this year from defensive end to defensive tackle simply because they thought he would be better as a pass rusher with that penetration straight up the middle. A little more upper body strength, and he showed it right there, fighting off the block of Jeff Arp to get in and get the sack on Norman Gibbs.
You know, we're saying so many things that the Alouettes have done 9 sacks and out rushing and out doing this. The fact of the matter is they're trailing in half the entire ball game. Hank Olisic, another great punt. High and deep. And Treflin very alertly allows it to roll through the end zone. So that makes it a 19-4 lead now. That's a very important point because here we're going to talk about Montreal scoring 2 touchdowns. But were they able to manage that, they would have to go for a 2-point conversion on one of them.
Pat, something to watch for maybe in this series. Carl Braisley, who had the interception earlier, said to me that what the Alouettes have been doing this half is spreading their receivers all over the field to spread out the defensive zone, and then the payoff pitch comes up the middle. So maybe the Argonauts will be looking for that.
All right, let's keep our eyes peeled and see what Montreal does elect to do. A lot of people may wonder why Brian Ransom got the call instead of Mark Stevens, because Stevens is a young quarterback that the Owls were very high on last year, but he came to camp, he had an inner ear infection, and that really wiped out most of training camp for him. Pass is caught by Jacques Chapdelaine, and Chapdelaine gets across midfield to the 52-yard line. Don Moen was there to bring him down.
What he didn't do was get out of bounds, though. He did a great play to catch it and get a few extra yards, but Jacques, you've got to get out of bounds when you've only got 2 minutes left. You want to stop that clock.
Swing it out to Wes Cooper. And Cooper, running hard, gets to the 45. Dennis Clay, number 14, is there to bring him down. It's a pickup of about 7 yards. Montreal in their hurry-up offense with 1:59 left to play in the ball game. The pass was dropped by James Hood. But you're right. It's unbelievable to think in 2 games how many passes Montreal has dropped. Now, what's the reason for that? Is that a lack of concentration, lack of ability? I mean, you get to this level, you're supposed to catch the football.
Well, you don't like to think it's lack of ability or they wouldn't be playing professional football, but I think it's just an out-and-out concentration problem. That time James Hood wanted to run before he caught it, and boy, you can't go anywhere unless you got the pigskin in your hand, so you might as well catch it first.
Pass is caught, and this is Raymond Casey. And Casey, who's a young fellow who played college football and junior ball here in Quebec. He had 1 game with the University of Ottawa, but really, he's a kid who came out of the community college football program and junior football. Look at the night. I think it was the middle of November.
Yeah, the rain has come back in, and you can really feel it cool off.
Ransom's pass is caught, and what a big first down this will be. And it is Jacques Chapdelaine. I like to wait because 88 and 89 look so much alike from up at our vantage point.
Chapdelaine has really done a good job here in the 4th quarter at just finding the open area over the middle, and don't run through that open area, just sit in it. Brian Ransom able to find him.
Ransom throws it back to Kerry Taylor. And Taylor fights his way to the 5-yard line. And he did a pretty good job of picking his way down there. But there's only 1:24 left in the ball game.
Well, Pat, we should set the stage, too, trailing 19-4 with a couple of touchdowns and 2-point converts. That adds up to 20 points.
We are optimists, though, aren't we?
Well,
not that we can care who wins the football game, but it's nice to make it exciting right to the end. And this is Wes Cooper. He's got the touchdown with 1:15 left to play in the ball game. They're going to go for the 2 because I noticed that Raymond Casey has told the offense he's checked at the sidelines, and they're going to stay in there.
well, this is the whole ball of wax right here. We're going to have a look at number 22, Wes Cooper, with his first professional touchdown in the Canadian Football League. Nice job to get into the end zone, but the play that really matters will be this next one.
Because if they do not get the two-point conversion, everything else is incidental. They can't win the football game anyway. They would then need 2 scoring plays. And I guess you go for it now. I don't know.
Sure you do.
I'd have gone, you see, I'm a conservative type guy. I would have gone for the normal conversion. Then it leaves me still in the football game, trailing by 8 points. If you miss this, you're out of it. But if they get it, anything can happen in the CFL. Ransom fires over the middle, and it's caught by Raymond Casey.
And that wasn't that easy a catch to make, too. He had to reach back behind his body, and boy, he showed me some nice soft hands there, Raymond Casey.
Well, you know, there are critics of the CFL, but as somebody who has been around this league for an awful long time, I'm going to tell you, when it gets to this point, it does get exciting because anything can happen here.
Well, that's great, you know, and of course, when I was figuring out that a couple of two-point converts outside the touchdowns would give them a 20-19 lead, I keep forgetting that in 1986 we have overtime.
Right.
So if a touchdown was scored now, the convert, and then we go to 2 5-minute halves.
And I have to tell people across the country that the Spy suggested we might have our first overtime game tonight. The Spy, of course, is Leif Pedersen.
Well, we're not there yet.
No, but it wasn't a bad prediction, considering that they're only 7 points back. But Chris Woods can make that 14 in a hurry because he can bring these things all the way.
It'll be interesting to see what Gary Durchik, the head coach of the Montreal Alouettes, elects to do here with 1 minute and 15 seconds left. Does he kick it deep, or?
I would.
I think so. I think that's the personnel he's got in there. What do we know?
To the sideline. Argos have possession.
That's Jerry Nash, number 18, put in a situation like this with his good hands. And speaking of good hands, he's a 3-time Alberta handball champion, so not a bad guy to have out there in this kind of a situation.
I guess we're never going to be nominated for Coach of the Year.
No. I'd say our percentage in predictions is around 30. That might be generous.
Well, there you see the time in the upper right of your screen. Now, the Alouettes, of course, do have 1 timeout, but the Argos have possession at the Montreal 53-yard line. They give us to Craig Ellis. He gets nothing. Now, that just took 3 seconds off the clock. 1 minute 10 left, and the clock will start when referee Jake Arlen blows his whistle, which he has just done.
Well, if things continue this way with the Argonauts holding their 19-12 lead, they'll be tied with the Ottawa Rough Riders for first place in the Eastern Conference, both with 2 wins, and Montreal and Hamilton with 0-2 records.
This is Craig Ellis again, wrapped up back of the line of scrimmage by Brett Williams, number 71. Now, time is whistled out momentarily with 51 seconds left.
I think Montreal's going to take their timeout now, so Hank Alista can't run 20 seconds off the clock.
And that's exactly what they will do. So, the Alouettes are going to get the football back. Now they're going to get it back deep in their own territory.
Well, I suspect you're going to see 11 hungry guys up there coming after Hank Alisic's punt attempt.
Okay, now the Owls trail by 7. If the ball goes deep, would you let it go into the end zone and make it an 8-point ball game? I would. Because you've got to have field position. I mean, you can't start a drive with 45 seconds left on the clock from your own 2-yard line.
Well, you know, Jeff Treflin is standing back on his 5-yard line, and on all the teams that I played for, when you got in a situation like this, if you had your punt returner stand on the 5, it meant that anything over your head, you let go and take the single point. Anything in front of you, you grab and you play. But the 5-yard line was the cutoff point. So, Jeff, stay right there and make me look good.
I'm going to tell Jeff that if the ball bounces in front of him, let it get into the end zone. .48.7 is his average tonight, Hank Alisic. Now, Alisic would like Treflin to have to field this ball deep in his own territory.
Oh.
Well, he can forget it because he just kicked this one deep into the end zone.
Jeff didn't have to make a choice.
No, it's perfect for Jeff. The ball bounces out of bounds with 41 seconds left to play in the fourth quarter. Montreal will have possession at their 35-yard line. Not a bad punt by Hank Olisic, 75 yards.
He's had a great night.
Really has. But, you know, the Argos, of course, lost Condredge Holloway early in the ball game. That definitely impeded their offensive performance. Montreal have moved the ball on occasion, but never appeared to get things going into high gear. But again, Joe Barnes couldn't do much, so they had to bring in their backup quarterback. And that's who's in there now, Brian Ransom. Ransom fires. Oh, what a perfect catch to Jacques Chapdelaine. It was right over Darrell Wilson's head. He went high in the air, but it cleared his hand by about 6 inches right into Chapdelaine. And he picks up a very big first down at the 51-yard line of the Alouettes with 36 seconds left to play.
Yeah, and that time he got out of bounds, too, so they stopped the clock. What a perfect throw by number 6, Brian Ransom.
Same thing. Jacques Chapdelaine, they ruled that he was out of bounds.
Well, you can hear them booing at the Big O, but there's no question. Excellent call. Number 81, Roger Keeley, the back judge, was right Johnny on the spot. Watch his feet come down. We're going to have a great shot of it here, maybe. There's his foot, left foot, right on the line.
31 seconds left to play in the fourth quarter. Second down, Montreal from their 51. They trail by 8. Ransom's pass was behind Chapdelaine and in front of Kerry Taylor. Now, obviously, Montreal goes here on 3rd and 10, and they don't have to go to the end zone, but they've got to get the first down. Sad thing is on the Chapdelaine thing, I think he kind of lost his feeling of where he was on the field, because I don't think he had to be that close to the sideline. What a big play defensively for the Toronto Argonauts, because they come up and stick Raymond Casey, and that play is made by Don Lone, who's been all over the field tonight for the Argos. Well, that's your old ball game with 18 seconds left.
All she wrote. Don Lone's had a nice game. You know, it's like I said earlier, very inconspicuous out there. But game in, game out gives the Toronto Argonaut defense fine performance.
Well, from what we've seen of Brian Ransom, I mean, the Alouettes have to be impressed with him. The more he plays.
They're impressed, but they've got to quit hurting themselves. You know, they've a couple of drop balls here and there.
Well, Norman Gibbs will take no chances. He'll get the pass from center. He goes down on one knee. Incidentally, that's another new rule this year. Previously, you had to touch the quarterback to make sure that he was ruled down. This time, because of the rules that they instituted in 1986, when the quarterback drops down to one knee, that's it. The play is over. 20-12 will be the final score in favor of the Toronto Argonauts. And this will be the final play. There are 15 seconds showing on the time clock and only 7 seconds left in the ball game. The Toronto Argonauts have moved into a tie for first place in the Eastern Conference, along with the Ottawa Rough Riders, because here at Olympic Stadium in Montreal tonight, they defeat the Alouettes 20-12. The Argos jumped in front early, and they never really allowed the Alouettes to get back in the ball game. Both defenses played particularly well. The offenses may have left a little to be desired as Bob Obilovich walks over and shakes Gary Dirchik's hand. It's a game that both desperately wanted, but the Argos come up with it, despite the fact that the Alouettes out-yarded them 360-213. Look at the turnover story again. It hurt Montreal last week. It hurts them again tonight. They have 5 turnovers. The Argos only have 3. Alouettes have every offensive statistic except the most important one, and that's the scoreboard, because the Argos win it 20-12 and are now in first place. Let's go downstairs now and hear from head coach Bob Obilovich, who's standing by with Dan Matheson.
Thanks very much, Pat. Bob and I have walked under the dugout here just to get a little shelter from the rain. You didn't look very happy when it was all over. Were you upset at something?
Well, I just didn't think we played very well. Offensively, we got a lot of work to do, and we turned over the ball 3 times, and we were in the scoring area where we should at least come out with a field goal, and we should have had a much bigger lead, and I guess that's just one of those things we're going to have to work on, and we got some young people in there and some quarterbacks. Norman was his first shot with us, and I think he made a few decisions that he can do better in terms of his execution, but we'll take the 2 points. That's the important thing.
Well, coaches are never entirely satisfied, but your defense tonight was outstanding.
Our defense has played well, and once again, Hank Alisic punted the ball really well, and I've been saying all along, and if we get those 2 ingredients, we have a good chance in every football game. And once we get that offense clicking, because I think Craig Ellis showed he can add a little more to it, and we just have to get better in our execution. And it's still just our 4th game of the season, and so hopefully we're going to get better here in the near future.
Can you give us a status report on Condredge?
They said he could have went back in the ball game, but we had the lead, and I felt it was an opportunity to let Norman get some work. And actually, I thought Norman did some good things when he's in there. He threw a couple good passes and made some good reads, and we just didn't finish things off. And then we got down to the 3-yard line, and one of our people on a short yardage situation didn't go into the game, and that's what caused the fumble. So we made some dumb mistakes on offense, and we got a lot of work to do.
I think you were the coach of a team that was 0-2 instead of 2-0. You got the BC Lions next week. It's a game the folks can watch here on CTV. Tell me what your thoughts about the Lions.
Well, we know they're a great football team. They got a lot of good personnel. They're the defending Grey Cup champions, and they're always tough at home. So we have our work cut out for us.
And if you play as crummy as you did tonight, you might go 3-0.
Well, we'll take the 2 points any way we can get them, but, we have to get better at what we're doing.
Bob, congratulations.
Thanks a lot, Dan.
Bob Obilovich, the winning coach. The final score once again, 2012. The Argonauts beat the Alouettes. This is CTV's...
And now, the Carling O'Keefe Sports offensive and defensive game stars as selected by our broadcast crew. From the Toronto Argonauts, running back Craig Ellis is the offensive star. And from the Montreal Alouettes, linebacker Lamont Jeffers is the defensive star. Each of tonight's outstanding players will receive a Royal Canadian Mint 1-ounce solid gold coin presented by Nikon. For once-in-a-lifetime shots, get the Nikon Touch, the simplest Nikon 35mm camera. Get the Nikon One Touch. And by Tilly, bringing together quality and creativity in all of their products. This is CTV's Friday Night Football.
Making his debut as a Toronto Argonaut, Craig Ellis had an outstanding evening, both running with the football and catching the football, and really that's what you're known for. Those are the credentials you brought with us, and you had a chance to show them to us all tonight.
Well, Dan, first I want to say hello to my wife back in Edmonton. I hope she enjoyed her new house. But today everything was working pretty good. I didn't really have a good game, but I think week by week as I get better, I think it's going to come along really good.
What were you not happy with?
Well, I missed a lot on my blocking assignments, and I just didn't feel comfortable behind there. And that run and shoot offense is going to take some while until I adjust. But I think here in Toronto, they utilize my talent very well. They do things that they didn't do in Regina, so I'm going to be happier, I think.
Is this the kind of place where you can put down some roots? You've much traveled the West.
Well, I wouldn't say that, Dan, because they say if you ever want to see Canada, join the CFL. And like I said, I saw the West already, and you never take things for granted. I take day by day, week by week, and that way.
Okay, you had Condredge Holloway going down tonight, and Argonaut fans at home must have been thinking of last year when this club lost Holloway and the team went. This year, Holloway looks like he'll be back, but if you had to go with Norman Gibbs, what are your thoughts?
Well, I think Norman stepped in and did a pretty good job, and I think each week our offensive line and our backs, we're starting to block the blitz a little bit better. I think halfway through the season, I think our offense is going to be pretty well together.
Craig, congratulations.
Thank you, Dan.
Craig Ellis, offensive star tonight, and we will be back in a moment to talk with our defensive star. This is CTV's Friday Night Football. The Argonauts may have won the ball game tonight, but the Alouettes defense certainly made some points, especially in the second half. Lamont Jeffers had a great game for the Alouettes. You guys, though, seemed snake-bit. Nothing could go your way. You had the bad wind when there was wind in the first half. It rained on your parade today. You had bad turnovers. Nothing just seemed to go right.
Yeah, defensively, we just didn't seem to make enough big plays to get something going, to get the momentum going our way. We basically didn't show up to the second half. And when we needed a big play, we didn't get it. We got one down on the end zone, but we need more production on defense, you know, turnovers, interceptions, something that gets somebody motivated, to get something rolling where we can put some points on the board.
Well, points on the board were the problem last week, too. The defense played well in Ottawa as well. Is it tough not to feel a little animosity toward the offense, which isn't getting those touchdowns?
No, because if defense, we play well enough, we should stop people from scoring. So we're a team, we win and lose as a team. We can't control what the offense is doing, but we certainly control what we're doing. If we don't let them score, hey, it's 0-0.
Well, Lamont, congratulations on your good game tonight. Get it back next week.
Thank you.
Lamont Jeffers, the defensive star tonight. Now for their final words, let's go back upstairs to Pat and Leaf.
Well, as you see, the Toronto victory this evening moves them into a first-place tie with the Ottawa Rough Riders, and Montreal's no worse off than they were coming in because they're still tied with the Hamilton Ticats now, but at 0-2. Your thoughts?
Well, Pat, I thought it was not the greatest offensive game we've ever seen, and I've got to pick out one play that I thought was maybe the turning point in the game, and of course I thought although it came early, it was the block punt that gave the Argonauts a touchdown at a 14-1 lead. Kenny Joyner, the newcomer, came in, blocked the punt by Mike McTagg. Number 13, Darrell Wilson, the defensive back, recovered. A 14-1 lead at that point. That's all the points they needed to win the game, and that's the play that I thought turned it around.
And there's nothing lucky about that. That's a good defensive play. Dan, what are your thoughts?
Well, I enjoyed the ball game until it started to rain, Pat. I'll tell you, it's a lot more dry up there in the broadcast booth than it is down here. But during halftime, all the broadcast crew and myself got to sit under this dugout with all the Montreal cheerleaders, so it wasn't so bad. Great first half, 17 points for the Argonauts. They hold on to win. The final, once again, 20-12 as they up their record to 2-0. The Alouettes have yet to win. Next Friday night, we have the Argonauts in BC. Saturday, Winnipeg and Hamilton. This program is copyright and is strictly intended for the private use of our audience. Any reproduction, retransmission, or rebroadcast without the express written consent of the CTV television network is strictly prohibited.
John Biner and his cast of Crazies are next on Bizarre. Knight Rider follows at 9 on 2-3 TV CFRN.